Chapter 41-43. At the same time, when they really began to face this problem, the angry monarch and the group of elders also fell silent. Their mood was very complicated. As Boss Ji's grandson, Ji Tianfeng was naturally their direct descendant. If they killed him on the spot, they couldn't bear it. But if they didn't kill him, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred in their hearts. Moreover, based on Ji Tianfeng's previous performance, he didn't have the slightest remorse. If they continued to keep him, he might become a disaster in the future. Ji Ju looked up at Boss Ji and said, "Big brother, you decide." "Yes, he is from your bloodline. We respect your decision." Ji Lauer and the others also expressed their stance. Boss Ji looked at the group of people, then looked at Ji Tianfeng, who was paralyzed on the ground, and sighed. "If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Now is the critical moment. There can't be the slightest mistake. Let's kill him directly to avoid future troubles. Then, when the time comes, how will we explain to Yunhai?" The monarch asked. "Tell me the truth. If Ji Yunhai still has the heart to protect our purple gold divine dragon clan, he will agree with our approach." Boss Ji said, "All right." The monarch nodded. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, looked at the monarch and the group of elders, and said, "Since we have decided to kill him, then I have a suggestion." "What suggestion?" The monarch and the others looked at him suspiciously. "Since he's going to die anyway, why don't we let him play the last of his value and make up for his mistakes and make a final contribution to the purple gold divine dragon clan? And my suggestion can also cover up his betrayal of the purple gold divine dragon clan. In this way, not only can we protect his reputation, but we can also stop the purple gold divine dragon clan from panicking." Qin Feiyang said. "Panicking?" The monarch was stunned. Where did this come from? "Yes, panicking. Think about it. If the news of Ji Tianfeng's betrayal spread in the clan, how will the clansmen react? It will definitely be panic. At that time, they will all let their imaginations run wild. Will there be other spies hiding? If that's the case, it will definitely cause a lot of disturbances in the future and affect the unity of the purple gold divine dragon clan." Qin Feiyang said. "Makes sense." The monarch nodded. He hadn't thought about it yet. He also admired Qin Feiyang's mind for thinking so far ahead. Furthermore, you have to consider Ji Yunhai and Ji Shaoyi. Although Ji Tianfeng's betrayal has nothing to do with them, Ji Tianfeng is their relative after all. If Ji Tianfeng's betrayal is exposed, how will the world talk about them behind their backs? Not only can my suggestion cover up this matter, it can also mold Ji Tianfeng into a hero and let Ji Tianfeng be openly buried in your purple gold divine dragon clan's ancestral land. Qin Feiyang smiled. "Buried in the ancestral land? He's just a traitor. What right does he have?" "I don't agree." Boss Ji objected immediately. "Great-grandfather, I know how you feel. But think about it. Ji Tianfeng committed such a grave mistake. Not only did we help him cover it up and protect his reputation, we even buried him in the ancestral grounds. What would Ji Yunhai think when the time comes? He will definitely be grateful to all of you. You don't want Ji Yunhai to hate all of you because of Ji Tianfeng's death. And there will be another traitor," Qin Feiyang said. "I think Qin Feiyang has a point. This matter is a great humiliation to the purple gold divine dragon clan. We will try our best to cover it up." Boss Ji nodded, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "So, what is your suggestion?" "Send Ji Tianfeng's body to the East Continent." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. "Send it to the East Continent?" The monarch and the others were surprised. What kind of abacus was this? Why couldn't they understand it? "Don't you understand? Stupid." Little Qin Zi means to frame Ji Tianfeng's death on the beasts and the merfolk. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. "Frame them?" The monarch was stunned. "Yes, What do you think the world will think if we send Ji Tianfeng's body to the East Continent? At that time, we won't even need to publicize it. Everyone will naturally think that the beasts and merfolk killed him. Let's talk about Ji Tianfeng. As a direct descendant of the purple-gold divine dragon clan, if he died in the hands of the beasts and merfolk, how big of a sensation would it cause? Let's not talk about the humans and beasts first. Let's talk about the purple-gold divine dragons. At that time, they will definitely hate the merfolk and beasts to the core. And you can also take this opportunity to openly turn against the merfolk and beasts. Qin Feiyang smiled. Long Qin was stunned by these words. When Qin Feiyang finished, she immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and said disdainfully, "You're so cunning. Do you know how to talk? This is called strategy." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Then he looked at the monarch and continued, "And by doing this, you can also lay a good foundation for your rebellion in the future." Foundation? The monarch frowned. "That's right. In the future, you will fall out with the sovereign sooner or later. But now, except for you, Heavenly Lord Ji, and the great-grandfathers and grandmothers, most of the other clansmen are still on the sovereign side. So in the future, when you officially fall out with the sovereign, these clansmen will definitely hesitate. But if we handle this matter with Ji Tianfeng well and incite the anger of the purple-gold divine dragon clan, then they will naturally rebel with you. In other words, Ji Tianfeng's matter is a fuse." Qin Feiyang smiled. The monarch was also stunned when he heard this. What kind of monster was this kid? It was originally a very small matter, but in the end he forcefully came up with a big conspiracy. This mind of his was a little too frightening. This idea is not bad, but you have to pay attention to your words in the future. I'm not rebelling. I'm fighting for the fate of the purple-gold divine dragons, the monarch said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and nodded. Yes, 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 I didn't use the right words. The monarch rolled his eyes and looked at the group of elders. I personally think that his suggestion is not bad, but I don't know what you think. As long as it's good for the purple-gold divine dragons, we agree. Besides, Ji Tianfeng can be used to such a value, it can be considered as atonement for his mistakes. Boss Ji nodded. The Divine King and the Human Race Supreme looked at each other and were also willing to submit to Qin Feiyang's strategy. All right, since it's decided, leave this matter to us. You just have to cooperate with us when the time comes. When the time comes, you can even find an excuse to kill a few beast gods of the beast race, and the dragon god will have nothing to say and can only suffer in silence. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay, you arrange it. The monarch nodded. Ji Tianfeng, who was paralyzed on the side, was also trembling with fear. This was Qin Feiyang. He was truly a person who made people tremble in fear upon hearing his name. No, this person was a devil. Uncle, great-grandfather, I know I was wrong, don't kill me. Please give me another chance. Seeing Qin Feiyang walking towards him, he immediately trembled and hurriedly knelt on the ground, hugging the monarch's thigh and begging. Opportunities are not given by others. You have to fight for it yourself. Besides, to be able to use the remaining heat for the future of the purple-gold divine dragon race, you can be considered to have died a worthy death. Don't worry after you die. I will take good care of your father and son. The monarch looked at him coldly. No, Ji Tianfeng shook his head, his face full of fear. He turned around and crawled to Qin Feiyang's feet. Qin Feiyang, we can be considered a family. Please do me a favor and give me a chance. Sai, if you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He raised his arm and pressed his fingertips on Ji Tianfeng's forehead. No, please, I don't want to die. Accompanied by a scream. Under Ji Tianfeng's extreme despair, a law of life and death emerged and directly penetrated his head, annihilating his soul on the spot. A thumb-sized bloody hole was left between his eyebrows. Chapter 41-44. Next, Qin Feiyang and the other two didn't stay any longer. They took Ji Tianfeng's body and entered the East Continent overnight, and it was near the Dragon God Mountain. If they wanted to shift the blame, they would directly shift it to the Dragon God. Only in this way could they exert the greatest effect. The Dragon God Mountain that was razed to the ground had long been rebuilt. Now it was beautiful again. However, looking at the Dragon God Mountain, Qin Feiyang and the other two were like three ghosts hidden under the night sky. There was a trace of coldness in their eyes. Do we need to lure the Dragon God away? The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. Yes, but it's not you, it's me. Let's meet at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain later. Qin Feiyang took out Ji Tianfeng's body and handed it to the white-eyed wolf. The Dragon God's strength was unfathomable. He couldn't let the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin take the risk. Then be careful, the white-eyed wolf warned. Qin Feiyang nodded. The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin looked at each other and immediately put away Ji Tianfeng's body, restrained their aura, and disappeared into the mountains below. Is there really a way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations? Qin Feiyang looked at the courtyard on the top of the mountain and muttered to himself. Then he took a step forward and roared without holding back his aura. Below, the giant peaks suddenly began to collapse, and the rumbling was deafening. And, on the top of the mountain, in the attic, the Dragon God was resting with his eyes closed. Hearing the movement outside, he immediately got up and took a step forward. He appeared outside the courtyard and looked up. When he saw Qin Feiyang in the distance, his eyes suddenly surged with killing intent. How dare you come to my Dragon God Mountain to make trouble? Boom! Accompanied by a powerful aura, the Dragon God took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. Causing trouble? You underestimate me, Qin Feiyang! You think I'm a clown? Let me tell you, I'm here to kill you. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The ultimate mysteries of all the strongest laws were instantly activated. A heaven-destroying, earth-shattering divine might shook the world. You, the Dragon God sneered. One after another, ultimate intents appeared out of nowhere. There were actually a total of 8 ultimate profundities of supreme laws. The destruction law, devour law, nothingness law, space-time law, time law, karma law, death law, and the last one was the light and darkness law. Powerful indeed. Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart. 8 ultimate profundities of supreme laws were even more powerful than the 3 monarchs. This was because the monarch and the other 2 had only mastered 7 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. Boom! Accompanied by the eruption of the will of the heavenly Tao, the 2's law energies collided. However, Qin Feiyang's ultimate profound did not activate the will of the heavenly Tao. This was because the battlefield could not be here. Otherwise, the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin would not have a chance. Because of this, Qin Feiyang was no match for him. He spat out a mouthful of purple gold dragon blood, and his face turned slightly pale. Whoosh! Immediately, he turned around decisively, activated the moment of time, and fled into the sky. You want to leave after coming here? You're too naive. The Dragon God also activated the moment of time and chased after him at lightning speed. But he did not notice. Just after he left, 2 black figures sneaked into the Dragon God Mountain. What aura is that? So powerful. He is Qin Feiyang. There were only 3 beast gods left in the God clan, the human clan and the purple gold divine dragon clan. The other 7 beast gods were in the East Continent. At this moment, sensing the battle fluctuations that erupted from Qin Feiyang and the Dragon God, they were initially very surprised and suspicious. After identifying Qin Feiyang's aura, they immediately soared into the sky, opened the space-time tunnel, and went forward to encircle him. In a short while, 2 beast gods appeared in front of him. The lairs of these two beast gods happened to be in the direction that Qin Feiyang had fled, so they intercepted him from this side. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, turned in the air, and fled in another direction. The dragon god and the two beast gods looked at each other and changed directions at the same time, continuing to chase. In just a short while in front, two more beast gods ran to intercept him. A blood Kirin and an ice phoenix, fierce and powerful. Run. The dragon god laughed. You want to stop me with just these two? Qin Feiyang was disdainful and activated the 6 ultimate laws. Not activating the 3,000 clones? Then aren't you courting death? The blood Kirin and ice phoenix sneered and activated the 6 ultimate laws, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Ignorance is terrible. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Since they had delivered themselves to his door, why should he be polite? By directly crippling these two beast gods, it was equivalent to obtaining 12 ultimate profundities of supreme laws. The blood Kirin and 5-clawed golden dragon of the black tortoise world were also waiting to fuse their ultimate laws. Boom! Just before the collision, Qin Feiyang's lips curled up, and the will of the heavenly Tao finally erupted. With the appearance of this will of the heavenly Tao, the dragon god and the 4 beast gods' expressions changed. What a powerful heavenly might! Was this still the will of the heavenly Tao? It felt as if they were facing the real heavenly Tao. Boom! With a loud explosion, the 12 ultimate laws of the blood Kirin and ice phoenix were unable to fight back and shattered on the spot. Divine might roared. The void collapsed and the earth sank. In the mountains, the blood of countless fierce beasts splattered everywhere. These fierce beasts were all beasts, so Qin Feiyang naturally did not care. But the dragon god and the 4 beast gods were heartbroken. You should worry about yourselves first. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The 6 ultimate laws continued to attack the blood Kirin and ice phoenix with a monstrous power. Dodge! The dragon god shouted. This will of the heavenly Tao had far exceeded the will of the heavenly Tao that they had. Even the beast gods could only be killed in an instant. The blood Kirin and ice phoenix quivered and immediately turned to escape in 2 directions, their backs drenched in cold sweat. How could there be such a terrifying will of the heavenly Tao? They had never seen it before. Boom! Although they escaped quickly, they were still affected by the aftershock of the 6 ultimate laws. Their mountain-like bodies were torn apart on the spot, and blood splattered everywhere. This scene made the other 2 beast gods beside the dragon god shudder with fear and trepidation. Just the remaining force alone was enough to shatter the flesh of the beast gods into pieces? If they were killed head-on, wouldn't they die on the spot? The dragon god's face darkened slightly. Qin Feiyang's strength had far exceeded his imagination. At the same time, the blood Kirin and ice phoenix thought they had escaped. But suddenly, they felt another strong sense of danger coming from behind them. When they turned their heads to look, they were instantly scared out of their wits. They saw that in the void behind them, there was actually a person who looked exactly like Qin Feiyang, and he was charging towards them. 3,000 clones. There was no need to think to know that it was 3,000 clones. Lord Dragon God, save us! Their bodies were torn apart. Whether it was speed or strength, they could no longer exert their peak state. They frantically ran for their lives while calling for help. No one can save you. The 2 clones sneered. At the same time, Qin Feiyang stopped in the void and turned to face the dragon god and the other 2 beast gods. This was to prevent them from rescuing the blood Kirin and ice phoenix. You 2 go rescue them. The dragon god said to the 2 beast gods gloomily. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said, You are courting death. Boom! A mysterious aura suddenly erupted. Qin Feiyang was about to intercept the 2 beast gods, but as this aura erupted, he suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger. Whoosh! He didn't dare to hesitate and activated all 3,000 clones. Seeing this, the two beast gods who were about to rescue the Blood Kirin and Ice Phoenix immediately retreated. Actually, even if they succeeded in bypassing Qin Feiyang and ran to rescue them, it was already too late, because the two clones had already caught up with the Blood Kirin and Ice Phoenix. Following a cry of agony, the flesh of the two beast gods shattered into pieces. Their souls were fatally injured. The two clones attacked and instantly sealed their souls to prevent them from self-destructing. You really don't know what death is. This scene made the dragon god completely furious. You too stop him. Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate and left this sentence to the 2,998 clones behind him. Then he turned around and shot through the sky like lightning to join the other two clones. Die here for this sovereign, the dragon god roared angrily. Wisps of mysterious power surged out and instantly turned into a 3-foot-long sword. It was colorful and dazzling like a colorful diamond. This is, feeling this aura. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look, and his expression changed. This was actually the power of origin. How was this possible? The dragon god actually controlled the power of origin? The power of origin was something that only the ruler of the divine kingdom could control. Could it be this was given to him by the ruler of the divine kingdom? This was the dragon god's strongest technique? It was indeed terrifying, because he had already experienced the power of origin of the divine kingdom when he entered the divine kingdom. There was nothing that could stop it. He finally understood why the dragon god and Neptune both had the means to restrain the 3,000 clones. The reason was the power of origin. With the power of origin of the divine kingdom, how could the 3,000 clones be a match for the dragon god and Neptune? Instead of calling it restraint, it was better to call it crushing. The 3,000 clones also realized the seriousness of the problem. The law of life and death and the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws were activated without reservation. The will of the heavenly way also erupted. Retreat! The other two beast gods were horrified when they saw this scene. They were different from the dragon god. The dragon god controlled the power of origin of the divine kingdom, but they did not. Facing the law of life and death, the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws, and such a terrifying will of the heavenly way, they did not even have the courage to fight. However, the dragon god did not retreat at all, and the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. With a slash of the long sword in his hand, thousands of sharp lights swept across the sky like a torrent, and 3,000 clones appeared. Rumble! In just an instant, the 3,000 clones collided with the sword aura. Qin Feiyang had also joined the two clones. When he turned his head to look, his pupils immediately shrank. Even the current will of the heavenly way could not compete with the power of origin of the divine kingdom. Whether it was the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws or the law of life and death, they were all shattered like rotten wood. How could he dare to continue fighting? He immediately opened a space-time tunnel and entered it without looking back. At the same time, the sword aura surged, and the 2,988 clones all dissipated in an instant. Chapter 41-45. Immediately after, the sword chi surged toward the space-time tunnel in an overwhelming manner. 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. Qin Feiyang ran out. Before he could catch his breath, he sensed a fatal danger behind him. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin were already waiting at the top of the mountain. When they saw Qin Feiyang appear, they immediately went to greet him happily. But before they got close, they also felt a fatal threat. Without hesitation, the 3 of them immediately rose into the air. At the same time, a terrifying sword chi roared out. Although Qin Feiyang and the other 2 escaped in time, they were still affected by a wisp of sword chi. Their bodies were torn apart on the spot, and their blood dyed the sky red. The three of them frantically ran for their lives, their hearts filled with horror, especially the white-eyed wolf and Long Chin. Their hearts were in turmoil. What the hell was that? How could it be so terrifying? When they escaped to a safe distance and looked back, they were dumbfounded. The void and earth in this area had been reduced to nothing. The white-eyed wolf activated the law of life. While healing Long Chin and himself, he flew to Qin Feiyang's side and asked, "What's going on?" The dragon god's means are beyond our imagination. It's as difficult as ascending to heaven to deal with him. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. The white-eyed wolf and Long Chin looked at each other, and the shock in their eyes grew stronger. "Let's get out of here first." Qin Feiyang opened a space-time tunnel. The next moment, the three of them appeared in the West Continent. Qin Feiyang immediately took the two of them into the Black Tortoise realm. He first sealed the remnant souls of the Blood Kirin and Ice Phoenix in the ancient castle. Then the three of them went to the tea garden, made a pot of tea, and drank a few sips. After calming down, Qin Feiyang took out the voice transmission stone. Buzz, the Lord's shadow appeared. "Why are you in such a sorry state?" Looking at the bloodied Qin Feiyang, the Lord was shocked. "The mission has been completed. At the same time, the Dragon God's trump card has been exposed." Qin Feiyang said. "What trump card?" The monarch was bewildered. Obviously, the reason Qin Feiyang was in such a sorry state was definitely because of the Dragon God's trump card. The power of origin of the divine kingdom. Qin Feiyang enunciated every word clearly. "What?" The monarch looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. White-eyed wolf and Long Chin were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They were no stranger to the power of the origin of the divine kingdom. Back then, when they had broken into the divine kingdom, if it hadn't been for the mysterious youth, they would have been killed by the power of the origin of the divine kingdom. But who would have thought that the dragon god also controlled the origin power? The monarch came back to his senses and asked, "Isn't this origin energy something that only sovereigns can control?" Indeed. However, sovereigns can also bestow a few strands of the power of origin to their subordinates. Qin Feiyang said, "Even the 3,000 incarnations can't stop it?" The monarch asked, "Not only the 3,000 incarnations, all the ultimate mysteries and heavenly will that I have mastered can't stop the power of origin controlled by the dragon god." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Recalling the scene he had seen before, he couldn't help but shudder. "If that's the case, doesn't it mean that we have no chance of winning?" The monarch frowned. "That's the case for now." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Apart from the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm, only the power of faith of the human race could contend with the power of origin. But now, whether it was the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm or the power of faith of the human race, they had not reached this level. Then what should we do?" The monarch was worried. "You don't have to worry. As long as our alliance is not exposed, the dragon god and Neptune will not attack you." Qin Feiyang comforted. No matter how fast the Black Tortoise realm grew, it still needed a process. The same was true for the power of faith of the human race. To be honest, this matter was really difficult to deal with. So for now, they could only avoid the sharp edge. In the future, the monarch, the divine king, and the human race would have to be more careful when doing things. About Ji Tianfeng, do I still have to look for the dragon god to settle the score? The monarch asked. Of course. Although he has the power of origin, he still has some concerns about the three races. Moreover, you have to continue to pretend that you don't know that he has the power of origin. Otherwise, he will suspect our relationship. After all, only we know that he has the power of origin. Qin Feiyang said, "All right, anyway, just do as usual." The monarch smiled. "Yes, we can't have the slightest fear. When it's time to make a move, make a move. The power of origin is his trump card and the only way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations. He won't show it in front of you until the last moment. Qin Feiyang nodded. Makes sense. The monarch thought for a moment and said, Then you have to make arrangements as soon as possible to spread the news of Ji Tianfeng's death in the East Continent. The bigger the commotion, the better. I will make the arrangements later. Although I have suffered a loss this time, I have also gained something. I have captured the Blood Kirin and the Ice Phoenix. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Captured them? It doesn't seem to be meaningful because their divine souls are in the East Continent. The monarch frowned. I know this, but for me they are of great use. Qin Feiyang smiled. What great use? The monarch was curious. I won't reveal it for now. When the time is right, I will give you a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. You brat, you are still keeping me in suspense. The monarch laughed. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The monarch asked, What should we do with Old Wu and the spies of the human race and the Protoss? They must be eliminated, but we can't rush it. Otherwise, the Dragon God and Neptune will become suspicious. Anyway, now that we know they are spies, we just have to be careful in the future. It won't affect the overall situation. And in the future, they may be of great help to us. For example, we can give them false information. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. The monarch was stunned. He shook his head and smiled. Long Qin was right. You are a treacherous little fox. Look, even the monarch said so. What else do you have to refute? Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain. Qin Feiyang looked at the monarch helplessly and said, Then that's it for now. You guys act according to the circumstances and tell the divine king and the supremacy of the human race. Okay, the monarch nodded. After the conversation, Qin Feiyang put away the transmission stone and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. Seeing this, the white-eyed wolf immediately prepared to run away. Why are you running away? Qin Feiyang grabbed him and said with a dark face, Don't I know you? You must be planning to let me spread the news. The white-eyed wolf snorted. Spreading the news is just a matter of moving one's mouth. Qin Feiyang was speechless. It was as if he was going to risk his life. Then he looked at Long Qin and said, Little Qin, you go with him. If he doesn't listen, you can beat him up. At first, Long Qin was very reluctant like the white-eyed wolf. But when she heard the latter part, she immediately perked up and asked, Are you sure I can beat him up? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Long Qin immediately looked at the white-eyed wolf with evil intentions. Damn you! What kind of brother are you? I'm going to cut ties with you. Immediately, right now. The white-eyed wolf yelled at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and waved his hand, sending the two out of the black tortoise realm. Then he pondered for a moment, stepped out and landed in the cultivation room of the ancient castle. Sky Peng, the Bloodwing Sea God, the Blood Kirin, and the Ice Phoenix were all sealed in this cultivation room. Seeing Qin Feiyang come in, the three beast gods and the Bloodwing Sea God immediately stared at Qin Feiyang with resentment. Don't look at me like that. You only have yourselves to blame for overestimating yourselves. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then what do you mean? Are you going to keep suppressing us like this? The Bloodwing Sea God said angrily. Sky Peng and the Bloodwing Sea God's ultimate enlightenment hadn't been stripped yet, because Long Qin had already said not to disturb him for the time being. However, Qin Feiyang was a little worried that a long delay might lead to trouble, so he hesitated at this moment. Should he go and find Long Qin? Forget it. Let's wait for him to come out. There shouldn't be any changes if we're imprisoned here. Qin Feiyang mumbled and looked up at the three beast gods and the Bloodwing Sea God. He smiled and said, If you want, I'll be happy to imprison you here forever. Who the hell would be willing? Sky Peng and the Bloodwing Sea God couldn't help but curse in their hearts. They didn't realize that Qin Feiyang was thinking about their ultimate enlightenment. Outside, at dawn, a piece of news that shocked the 3 continents spread like wildfire. The monarch's nephew, Ji Tianfeng, died in the East Continent, and he died on the Dragon God Mountain. Needless to say, if he died on the Dragon God Mountain, it must have something to do with the Dragon God. Is this true? Why do I feel that it's a bit ridiculous? No matter how arrogant the beast race is, they wouldn't dare to attack a direct descendant of the purple gold divine dragon clan. I don't think it's groundless. Let's wait a little longer. If this is true, the purple gold divine dragon clan will make a move soon. Everyone was discussing. At the same time, East Continent, the dragon god returned to the Dragon God Mountain and sat in the pavilion with a gloomy face. First, it was Sky Pung, and now it was the Blood Kirin and the Ice Phoenix. Were they trying to defeat the beast gods of the beast race one by one? Swoosh! Suddenly, a figure descended in the courtyard. It was Neptune. At this moment, Neptune's face was extremely ugly. He hurried into the pavilion and glared at the dragon god. What have you done? What? The dragon god looked up at Neptune in confusion. Why are you asking me about the stupid things you did? Neptune thought he was playing dumb and became even more annoyed. Stupid things? Be more polite when you speak to me. What is it? Can you make it clear first? The dragon god was already very angry. Now that Neptune came, he scolded him without any explanation. Wasn't that adding fuel to the fire? You really don't know. Neptune frowned. Know what? The dragon god was also more and more puzzled, and an uneasy premonition appeared in his heart. It seems that you really don't know. I just received news that the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent are crazily spreading the news. You killed the monarch's nephew, Ji Tianfeng. Neptune said in a deep voice. Killed Ji Tianfeng? Who said that? Why would I kill such a trash? Besides, he is a spy we planted in the purple gold divine dragon clan. Why would I kill him? The dragon god was speechless. But rumors are like that. Neptune frowned. What was going on? Chapter 41-46. Swish! Suddenly, a space-time passage appeared. A golden tiger hurriedly ran out. Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on the purple gold divine dragon clan? Why did you run back in such a hurry? The dragon god looked at Golden Tiger suspiciously. My lord, don't tell me you still don't know what happened outside. Golden Tiger was burning with anxiety. The dragon god froze for a moment and frowned. Are you talking about the rumors about me killing Ji Tianfeng? Yes. Golden Tiger nodded. What a bunch of nonsense. Someone is spreading rumors and causing trouble. The dragon god was furious. But now, we really can't find Ji Tianfeng in the purple gold divine dragon clan. Moreover, when the king heard the news, he was furious. Not only did he summon the powerhouses of the clan, but he also asked Ji Tianjun to personally invite the divine king and the supreme of the human race to come and seek justice from you. Golden Tiger said in a deep voice. What? The dragon god suddenly stood up and roared. Bastard, who is behind this? Are you sure you didn't do it? Neptune looked at the dragon god and asked again. If I say I didn't do it, then I didn't do it. The dragon god glared at him. Neptune frowned. He naturally knew the dragon god's character. If he really did it, there was nothing he wouldn't dare to admit. In that case, someone must be plotting against the dragon god behind this matter. But who was it? Plotting against the dragon god required a lot of courage. Could it be Qin Feiyang and his group? Golden Tiger was surprised. Qin Feiyang! The dragon god's eyes were cold as he nodded and said, Yes, it must be these people. They want to sow discord between us and the 3 major clans and cause internal strife. If it's really them, then this move is really vicious. Neptune whispered. Ji Tianfeng was the king's nephew. He was the true direct descendant of the purple gold divine dragon clan. The most important thing was that everyone knew about it now. In such a situation, would the monarch let it go? Definitely not. If the monarch did not come to seek justice from them, the world would criticize him behind his back, saying that he did not even dare to stand up for him when his own nephew was killed. He could already foresee that when the monarch brought his people to the East Continent, it would cause a terrible storm. "Sir, why don't you go and hide for a while?" The golden tiger was rather worried. "What did you say? You want me to hide?" "I didn't do it. Why should I hide from them?" The dragon god roared. But the golden tiger hesitated. The dragon god was obviously in a fit of anger, so he didn't dare to say anything more. Hiding is indeed not a solution. However, you don't have to worry too much, because this kind of thing requires evidence first. Dragon God Mountain doesn't have Ji Tianfeng's corpse. Even if the monarch brings people here, he can't really do anything to us. Neptune said, but in his heart he felt uneasy. He seemed to have overlooked something. "That's right. If you say that I killed Ji Tianfeng, then show me the evidence." The dragon god sneered. Boom! But before he finished speaking, a terrifying aura descended from the sky. The dragon god and the other two looked up and their faces sank. The people who came were from the three major races. The monarch, the divine king, and the supremacy of the human race were the leaders. Next were Heavenly Lord Ji and the supremacies of the three major races. This lineup was more than just a little terrifying. Each of them had mastered the ultimate meaning. The 10 supremacies of the god race and the third supremacies of the human race. These two spies were also there. However, except for the monarch, the divine king, the supremacy of the human race, and Heavenly Lord Ji, all the supremacies here did not know about this meticulously planned plot by Qin Feiyang. Similarly, the monarch and the other two also listened to Qin Feiyang's suggestion and did not expose the identities of the 10 supremacies and the third supremacies as spies. Therefore, right now, the 10 supremacies and the third supremacies were completely unaware that their identities as spies had been exposed. Dragon God, Neptune, why did you do this? As soon as the monarch appeared, he directly questioned them. What did you say? The dragon god and Neptune frowned. Still playing dumb? Hurry up and hand over Ji Tianfeng to us. Heavenly Lord Ji spoke, his entire body surging with killing intent. You're just a junior. Don't be presumptuous. The golden tiger raised his eyebrows and said angrily, You're not convinced? With trash like you, even 100 of you won't be enough for me to kill. Heavenly Lord Ji looked at the golden tiger with unparalleled dominance, his eyes full of contempt. The golden tiger was so angry that he trembled. This was too arrogant. The dragon god stopped the golden tiger, looked at Heavenly Lord Ji, and said in a deep voice, Ji Tianfeng's matter has nothing to do with us. Moreover, with my identity and status, I disdain to kill such a small character. Then who knows? I only believe that there's no such thing as a groundless rumor. Moreover, we really can't find Ji Tianfeng now. Moreover, the contract bridge we established with him has collapsed, which means that he has indeed met with misfortune. The monarch said in a deep voice, The contract bridge collapsed? The dragon god and Neptune looked at each other. In that case, Ji Tianfeng had really met with misfortune, because only when he met with misfortune would the contract bridge established by the divine voice stone dissipate. I really didn't expect you guys to be so ruthless. There's a good saying that you have to look at the owner before beating a dog. Ji Tianfeng is the monarch's nephew. Even if he has offended you, for the sake of the monarch, for the sake of the Buddha, you shouldn't kill him directly. The divine king sighed. Divine king, don't slander us. The dragon god was furious. The divine king sneered and said, Then tell me, what's with the rumors outside? Daring to do it, but not daring to admit it. Is this the style of the dragon god? What a joke! If it was really done by me, why wouldn't I dare to admit it? The key is, Tianfeng's death indeed has nothing to do with me. Why should I bear with something that didn't happen? The dragon god roared. Monarch, divine king, Jizun, before you guys came, I also asked the dragon god, and he indeed didn't do it. According to our speculation, this should be deliberately framed by someone. And I think that the person behind this is most likely Qin Feiyang's group. In other words, Ji Tianfeng was killed by them, and now they're deliberately framing the dragon god to sow discord between our several races. Neptune explained calmly. Words have no proof. Heavenly Lord Ji said word by word. Neptune shook his head and said, We really don't have any evidence now, but please believe me, this matter really has nothing to do with the dragon god. I guarantee it in my own name. How much is your name worth? Besides, who doesn't know that the sea race and the beast race have a good relationship? Heavenly Lord, search the mountain. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. The monarch shouted. Yes, Heavenly Lord Ji nodded, and his divine sense rolled out. Search the mountain? The golden tiger raised his eyebrows and said angrily, What right do you have to search the mountain? Where do you think this is? How can you be so presumptuous? What guilty conscience? Heavenly Lord Ji sneered. Let them search. I have a clear conscience. I'm not afraid of them searching. The dragon god looked at the golden tiger and shouted. The golden tiger roared indignantly, But this kind of behavior is disrespectful to you. So, we have to make it clear in advance. The dragon god looked at the monarch and said in a deep voice, If you can't find Ji Tianfeng's body in the end, then kneel down in front of everyone and apologize to me. You think you're worthy of making Father kneel down and apologize? Let's talk about it later. With your means, you can completely destroy the corpse and destroy the evidence. Heavenly Lord Ji sneered. Bastard, how many times do I have to say that this has nothing to do with me? You want to search, right? Go ahead. If it weren't for his identity, the dragon god would probably have cursed. Heavenly Lord Ji's eyes flashed coldly, and his divine sense rolled out, instantly enveloping the entire dragon god mountain. Time passed bit by bit. Suddenly, Heavenly Lord Ji clenched his hands and immediately took a step forward, landing above a river in the mountains below. Seeing this, the monarch and the others immediately followed. The dragon god and the other two looked at each other and followed with a face full of surprise. Could it be that they really found something? The river. It was several meters wide. The river water was calm and clear. Heavenly Lord Ji's divine sense sank to the bottom of the river. Bastard, you really did it. All of a sudden, a monstrous anger erupted as Heavenly Lord Ji glared at the dragon god and roared. What? The dragon god's eyes trembled, and he hurriedly released his divine sense and rushed to the bottom of the river. He was stunned. The others also did the same. When their divine sense sank to the bottom of the river, they saw a corpse lying quietly at the bottom of the river. If it wasn't Heavenly Lord Ji, who else could it be? Impossible. The dragon god shook his head. The monarch waved his hand, and Heavenly Lord Ji's corpse rose out of the water and floated in the void. Looking at Heavenly Lord Ji's miserable death, the 10 supremacies of the purple gold divine dragon clan were enraged. They stared at the dragon god and shouted, What else do you have to say? Neptune and Golden Tiger also looked at the dragon god. Believe me, this really has nothing to do with me. Like what Heavenly Lord Ji said before, if it really was me, I could have destroyed the corpse and erased the evidence. Why would I leave his body here? Isn't this giving them something to use against me? Am I that stupid? The dragon god hurriedly looked at Neptune and said. Neptune frowned. It seemed to make sense. In such a situation, The element of framing was indeed more likely. However, he believed in the dragon god. But would the monarch and the others believe him? After all, seeing was believing, and the corpse was right in front of them. Dragon god, you've gone too far. The monarch clenched his fists, and a monstrous energy erupted. The power of laws surged out, and a scene of heaven and earth cracking suddenly appeared. Monarch, calm down. Neptune shouted. Calm down? I think this matter also has something to do with you. The monarch stared at Neptune like a furious lion. All the ultimate mysteries appeared, and the will of heaven roared in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the dragon god mountain was razed to the ground by the monarch's anger. Neptune's heart sank. He didn't expect that even he would be implicated. You killed my clansmen. An eye for an eye. Heavenly Lord G directly activated 3,000 incarnations, and his murderous aura surged into the sky. Heavenly Lord G, don't be presumptuous. At this time, accompanied by angry roars, the other 17 divine beasts arrived, all of them furious. Chapter 40, 147. What? You want to bully me with numbers? Killing intent flashed in the God King's eyes. With a wave of his hand, the 10 sovereigns behind him immediately stood in front of the 17 beast gods. The human lord also looked at the 10 lords of the human race. The 10 lords understood and also stood in front of the 17 beast gods. Divine King, Lord Supreme, what do you want? One of the beast gods said angrily. The Divine King said, this sentence, it should be this Empyrean asking you all. What are your intentions in killing Ji Tianfeng? We know a thing or two about this. Someone must have framed you. As the Divine King of the God race and Lord Supreme of the human race, can't you see that? The beast gods said angrily, we only believe what we see with our own eyes. Look at you. You're getting more and more arrogant. All these years, the beast kings and beast emperors of the East continent have enslaved the members of the 3 races and used them as tools to pass the time. We followed the principle of peaceful coexistence and pretended not to see it. But now, you've killed a direct descendant of the purple gold divine dragon race. Do you really think we're easy to bully? The Divine King's face was dark. Don't make it sound so nice. Even if this has something to do with me, what does it have to do with the God race and the human race? Do you have nothing better to do than to meddle in other people's business? The dragon god stared at the Divine King and Lord Supreme of the human race. You finally admit it. Heavenly Lord G said. When did I admit it? I was just making a metaphor. How can you be the patriarch if your understanding is so bad? The dragon god shouted. Whether you admit it or not, don't think about it today. As for the Divine King and Lord Supreme, they're on the side of justice. Besides, you killed a direct descendant of the purple gold divine dragon race today. And tomorrow, you might kill a direct descendant of the god race or kill an elite of the human race. Then, Heavenly Lord G's 3,000 clones all activated their ultimate intents. Following the eruption of the will of the heavenly Tao, 18,000 ultimate intents instantly turned into a torrent that charged toward the dragon god. You're courting death. Killing intent surged in the dragon god's eyes. The monarch hasn't even made a move yet. And you, a junior, dare to be so arrogant? Clang! The enraged dragon god directly activated his origin force, and Neptune couldn't even stop him in time. Not only had the dragon god entered a state of rage, but only the power of the origin could rival the 3,000 incarnations. Therefore, he could only activate his origin energy. This is the monarch, heavenly monarch, and heavenly monarch G's pupils contracted. Although they had already learned from Qin Feiyang that the dragon god controlled the origin power, they still had to pretend that they had just found out. Clang! The origin energy turned into a 1-meter-long sword that was indestructible. The 18,000 ultimate mysteries shattered on the spot. Heavenly Lord G spat out a mouthful of blood as his face turned pale. "I'll send you to hell right now." The dragon god let out a sinister smile as he slashed at Heavenly Lord G with his sword. "How dare you hurt my grandson? Even if you're the dragon god, I won't let you off." Suddenly, accompanied by a violent roar, 15 old men descended from the sky. What? Neptune's expression changed abruptly. It actually alarmed these 15 old antiques. Boom! The 15 old men took a step forward and landed in front of Heavenly Lord G as they activated their 3,000 incarnations. Ultimate intents appeared one after another. These old men had all mastered 7 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. One of them had 21,000 ultimate intents. 15 of them had more than 300,000 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. What kind of scene was this? Even Neptune and the dragon god couldn't help but tremble. As the rulers of the beast race and the sea race, they were naturally very clear about the situation of the purple-gold divine dragon race. The most terrifying part of the purple-gold divine dragon race wasn't the monarch or Heavenly Lord G, but these 15 old men who lived in seclusion deep in the mountains. Once these 15 old men made a move, even they would be scared out of their wits. "Old Senior, this is a misunderstanding. Please calm down." "Dragon God, quickly stop!" Neptune shouted repeatedly. More than 300,000 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. To be honest, even the power of origin that the dragon god had mastered might not be able to crush them, because the power of origin that the dragon god had mastered was only bestowed by the sovereign. No matter how strong it was, it had a limit. Moreover, if this power of origin was shattered by the 15 old men, then the dragon god would lose this trump card of the power of origin. Because the sovereign wasn't in the divine kingdom now, he could no longer bestow the dragon god the power of origin. If the dragon god lost the power of origin, it would be equivalent to losing the suppression of the 3 major races. Hearing Neptune shout, the dragon god frowned slightly, and the long sword formed by the power of origin returned to him. "Not bad. He even bestowed the power of origin to you. It seems that the sovereign really treats you as his trusted aide. Since the dragon god has the power of origin, then Neptune, you must also have the power of origin." Master Jiju looked at the two and sneered. "This is a small matter. Seniors, please do not believe in the slanderous words. Ji Tianfeng's death really has nothing to do with us. How about this? Give us some time. We will definitely find evidence and give the purple-gold divine dragon clan a satisfactory explanation." Neptune said, "But Ji Tianfeng's corpse is on Dragon God Mountain. This is an ironclad fact." Master Ji said in a deep voice, "Yes, this can't be denied, but Ji Tianfeng's death is indeed very strange." Neptune explained. Suddenly, the dragon god's gaze trembled, and he shouted, "This sovereign understands." "What?" Neptune looked at him in surprise. "Last night, Qin Feiyong came to Dragon God Mountain. I thought he was here for revenge, but now that I think about it, he was actually luring the tiger away from the mountain." The dragon god said angrily, "Luring the tiger away from the mountain?" Neptune was stunned. "That's right. He tricked me out of Dragon God Mountain and then had his companions put Ji Tianfeng's corpse in my Dragon God Mountain to frame me." The dragon god said, "That's right. When the rumor appeared in the West Continent, North Continent, and South Continent, it seemed to be not long after he came to Dragon God Mountain. That must be it. He was the one who killed Ji Tianfeng and then framed us for it. He instigated the relationship between our 5 great races, made us have internal strife, and then came out to reap the benefits." Neptune nodded. Why did he always feel like he had overlooked something before? So this was it. "No matter what you say, you have to pay the price today." Heavenly Lord G's eyes turned cold, and he activated his 3,000 clones again. He suddenly turned around and attacked the 17 beast gods. "No," Neptune shouted, but Heavenly Lord G turned a deaf ear. The 3,000 clones pounced on the beast gods. The beast gods certainly wouldn't sit still and wait for death. However, they couldn't resist at all in the face of the 3,000 clones. Arg! Accompanied by screams, the bodies of the 17 beast gods shattered on the spot in less than 3 breaths. Even their divine souls were completely erased. Of course, they wouldn't die, because they had left their divine souls in advance. However, this scene was truly shocking. It also proved the power of the 3,000 clones. They were all overlords who had mastered the will of heaven. But the 17 beast gods were like a group of children in front of Heavenly Lord G. No wonder the Lord gave the dragon god and Neptune the power of origin before he left. Without the power of origin, they wouldn't have the ability to suppress the purple gold divine dragons at all. Heavenly Lord G at the same time. The dragon god looked at this scene with murderous intent in his eyes. "What do you want?" If the beast race really wants to go to war, the purple gold divine dragons won't be soft shrimps. At most, we'll fight to the death. Ninth Master G stared at the dragon god, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The dragon god was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. Just because of Heavenly Lord G, he killed 17 beast gods of the beast race in front of him. This was simply too much. Although the 17 beast gods didn't really die, this kind of behavior was a naked humiliation to him. Enough. They won't die anyway, so let's just endure this for now. The Sea King transmitted his voice to the group of elders and said, 17 beast gods have been annihilated. You should be appeased by now. Just give us some time. We promise to investigate this matter thoroughly and give you an explanation. Okay, we'll give you time to investigate. 3 months. If you don't give us an explanation after 3 months, don't blame us for being ruthless. Next time, these beast gods will truly be destroyed in body and soul. Let's go. Ninth Master G left these words, opened the space-time passage, and led the group of people away. Soon, only the dragon god, Neptune, and the golden tiger were left here. This is too much, too much. These old farts don't put the sea race and the beast race in their eyes at all. The golden tiger roared. There's nothing we can do about it. These people, although now living in seclusion deep in the mountains and don't care about the world when they were young, which one of them wasn't in existence that made people tremble in fear? Once they are angered, even if we can kill them, the beast race and the sea race will pay a heavy price. Neptune sighed deeply. Then what should we do now? Qin Feiyang and these people are more cunning than foxes. It's probably harder than ascending to the sky to find out the truth of this matter. And with such a vicious plan, they definitely won't give us a chance to find out the truth. The golden tiger was worried. If they couldn't find out the truth, how could they give the purple gold divine dragon race an explanation? Finding out the truth is indeed as difficult as ascending to the sky. Now, to solve this matter, I'm afraid we can only ask the people of the central dynasty to come forward. Neptune sighed. The golden tiger's pupils shrank. There was also a trace of deep fear in the dragon god's eyes. All right, try your best to investigate. It's best if you can find out the truth. I'll go to the central dynasty now. As long as they are willing to come forward, those old farts of the purple gold divine dragon race won't dare to say anything. After the Sea King finished speaking, he looked at the dragon god and exhorted, You must not act rashly while I'm away. Otherwise, even with your power of origin, you may not be able to withstand the combined might of the 3 major races. I know. The dragon god waved his hand impatiently. Neptune sighed helplessly, opened a space-time passage, and left. Chapter 41-48. Find him. Order all the beasts in Scandinavia to find Qin Feiyang and those bastards for this sovereign. This sovereign will let them know the price of provoking this sovereign. The more the dragon god thought about it, the angrier he got. If it was really him who did it, it would make sense. But what did this have to do with him? Why did he have to suffer such grievances? If he didn't vent his anger, he would go crazy sooner or later. Yes, the golden tiger nodded respectfully and turned to leave with a belly full of anger. It seems that the people from the central dynasty will appear soon. At the same time, in the void not far away, the black tortoise realm was hidden in the dark. Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and Long Qin stood in the black tortoise realm and witnessed the whole process. Wait, not the whole process. In fact, they followed Boss G and the others here. If they came here from the beginning, no matter how they hid, they would definitely be discovered by everyone's divine sense. I heard that Neptune and the dragon god are in contact with the people from the central dynasty. I didn't believe it, but I didn't expect it to be true. I'm really looking forward to it. What kind of people are in the central dynasty? The white-eyed wolf had a playful look on his face. We can ignore the central dynasty for now, because right now there is an opportunity in front of us. Qin Feiyang chuckled. What opportunity? The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin were suspicious. Neptune went to the central dynasty, and from what he said to the dragon god, he should be leaving for a long time. Isn't this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted slightly. The two looked at each other and suddenly understood. If Neptune left, the oceanic tribe would be like a group of dragons without a leader. And the only person who could threaten them was Neptune, who had the power of origin. Without Neptune, wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Since the opportunity has come knocking on our door, we shouldn't be polite. Let's take care of the oceanic race in one fell swoop." Interesting. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. That's exciting. Long Qin also giggled. If he could really wipe out the entire sea race, not to mention the 6,000 shadow guards, perhaps even all the ferocious beasts around Qin Feiyang would be able to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao. Qin Feiyang seemed to have a lot of people and beasts around him, but compared to the entire Sea clan, it was like comparing an elephant to an ant. Putting aside the others, just the 6,000 shadow guards alone would require 36,000 ultimate, profound meanings to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao. In other words, as long as each of the 36,000 members of the Sea tribe grasped an ultimate profound, it would be enough for the 6,000 secret guards to reach the heavens in one step. 36,000 people, each grasping an ultimate profound. In the Sky Cloud realm, this was almost a dream. But in the Sea clan, the number of people who grasped the ultimate profound of the ultimate law far exceeded this number. Moreover, many of the Sea clan had grasped several ultimate profound of the ultimate law. So, once this plan succeeded, the overall strength of the Black Tortoise realm would definitely soar countless times in an instant. Buzz! Suddenly, the divine sound transmission stone rang. Qin Feiyang took out the divine sound transmission stone, and a shadow appeared. It was the king. "You're still in the East continent?" The king asked with a smile. "I'm keeping an eye on the dragon god." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Then, after we left, did the dragon god and Neptune do anything?" The king asked. "Yes. Neptune is going to the central dynasty to ask the people there to come forward and solve this matter." Qin Feiyang nodded. "I knew they would do this, but we sovereigns are indeed too biased. Every time, it's the three major clans who risk their lives at the front, but in the end, they give the Beast clan and the Sea clan the origin energy." The king sighed. Every time he thought of the unfair treatment of the sovereigns, he felt more and more disappointed and sad. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth and said, "Don't be sad. When the Black Tortoise realm grows in the future, I'll ask little Chinzi to give you a piece of the origin energy. You can play with it however you want. The king's mouth twitched. Do you think the origin energy is a toy? He was speechless. Let's get down to business. The Central Dynasty can't be underestimated. The king's face suddenly became serious, and he said in a deep voice, About 1,000 years ago, two amazing talents appeared out of nowhere in the divine kingdom. These two people relied on their abilities to suppress the geniuses of the various clans. In the end, they were valued by the Central Dynasty and were personally sent to pick them up. What? The Central Dynasty personally came to pick them up? The three of them were stunned. How monstrous were they? Their talent and potential are not inferior to yours. However, their origins are still a mystery. The king frowned. What do you mean? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. No one knows where they came from, and no one knows their identity. No one even knows what they look like. The king said, That's impossible. Didn't they appear in the divine kingdom? How can no one know what they look like? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Yes, there are quite a lot of people who have seen them. I've seen them with my own eyes. However, they've always been wearing masks. Regardless of when, they've never taken them off. The divine king shook his head. Why are they so mysterious? The three of them looked at each other. The Longchin frowned and said, They can't be people from the Central Dynasty, right? We thought so too. But if they're really people from the Central Dynasty, why would the Central Dynasty send people to pick them up? The divine king was suspicious. That can be explained. Maybe they sneaked out from the Central Dynasty, and then their elders found out and sent people to capture them. The Longchin said, That's also possible. In fact, back in the Sky Cloud realm, the geniuses of the divine kingdom were repeatedly defeated by you. The divine king and I, the supreme of the human race, wanted to find the Central Dynasty and ask the two geniuses to help. However, my good-for-nothing grandson insisted on holding a friendly competition to lure out the geniuses with the strongest fighting souls from the Sky Cloud realm. But in the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. The king smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang shook his head, smiled, and said, Actually, Long Zi's plan is pretty good. It's just that he's unlucky to have met us, especially little Qin. In less than half a day's time, we've already figured out his goal. Hearing this, the king looked at Longchin, shook his head and sighed. Yes, if it weren't for you guys, the plan would have succeeded. This may be fate. Thinking about the fighting souls of Qin Feiyang and the others, it was incredible to the extreme. Anyway, you must be careful when facing the Central Dynasty. And I have a hunch that the two geniuses may also appear this time. Also, the Dragon God and Neptune both have the power of origin. The Divine King and I, the supreme of the human race, will not dare to do anything in the future. You can only rely on yourselves. The king warned. Okay, Qin Feiyang nodded. After the conversation, Qin Feiyang put away the voice transmission stone and looked at the Dragon God, who was standing above the ruins with a gloomy face, and said with a smile, Let's go and try our luck. After that, he controlled the black tortoise realm and flew silently to the west. What luck! The white-eyed wolf and Longchin were startled and looked at him suspiciously. Weren't the bodies and divine souls of the 17 beast gods destroyed by heavenly Lord Ji? Let's go to their nest now and see if we can find their divine souls. Qin Feiyang's eyes twinkled. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf and Longchin's eyes brightened. The bodies and divine souls of the 17 beast gods had been destroyed, leaving only their broken souls. If they could really find them and capture them, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? Because when facing them in such a state, these broken souls would have no chance to fight back. A while later, the black tortoise realm landed above a mountain. The mountains were undulating and the vegetation was lush, but judging from the distribution of the terrain, a battle had taken place here, because this was the nest of the heavenly Peng. Qin Feiyang and the others observed for a while and found that there were many beast lords and beast emperors hiding in the nest. They were all hiding in the dark, and their eyes were full of vigilance. This is strange. When we first came here, we didn't see so many beast emperors and beast lords. The white-eyed wolf mumbled. Do you still need to think? Usually this is a forbidden area. No beast dares to set foot here. But now that the heavenly Peng is in our hands, there are so many beast lords and beast emperors gathered here. It seems that they are guarding something, Long Qin whispered. Guarding the broken souls of the heavenly Peng? The white-eyed wolf's spirit was lifted. From the looks of it, that's most likely the case. Long Qin nodded and turned to Qin Feiyang with a smile. Looks like we are quite lucky. Maybe. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Long Qin was confused. Maybe, what do you mean? Logically speaking, the broken souls of the beast gods should be kept by the dragon god himself, because this is the safest way. I don't believe that these beast gods would be stupid enough to keep the broken souls in their own lair and let this group of weak beast lords and beast emperors guard them. Qin Feiyang speculated. At first, he also thought that they were quite lucky. But now he thought about it carefully and felt that it was a little too smooth. So he was a little uncertain in his heart. What if they are that stupid? The white-eyed wolf bared its teeth. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Who were they looking down on? After all, they were the beast gods of the beast race. If they were really stupid, how could they have gotten to where they were today? However, since they were already here, and the broken soul of the heavenly Peng might be here, they naturally had to go out and take a look. Swish! Without warning, he appeared in the mountains outside alone. Qin Feiyang, the pupils of the beast emperors and beast lords hiding in the mountains, suddenly shrank. Qin Feiyang ignored them. The invisible divine sense was like a tide, covering the entire mountain in an instant. Immediately, his eyes were full of surprise. Underground, he found a secret chamber. This secret chamber seemed to be newly built. Could it be that the broken soul of the heavenly Peng was really here? Qin Feiyang, what are you doing? Get lost immediately. A group of beast emperors and beast lords ran out, but none of them dared to approach Qin Feiyang. They all stood far away. On one side they were afraid, and on the other they showed a fierce look. It was really a bit funny. Chapter 40, 149. Rumble. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the ground below cracked. The secret hidden underground broke through the ground and floated in the air. Stop it! Seeing this scene, the group of beast sovereigns and beast emperors anxiously roared. It can't really be inside, right? Qin Feiyang muttered. If it wasn't, these beast emperors and beast sovereigns' acting skills were too good. He was secretly cautious as he walked to the secret chamber. He discovered that this secret chamber could actually block the probing of divine consciousness. In other words, only by opening the secret chamber could he find out what was inside. After observing for a while, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a surge of life and death energy appeared and blasted toward the secret chamber. With a cracking sound, the secret chamber broke on the spot. But at the same time, the beast emperors and beast sovereigns' eyes flashed fiercely as they turned around and ran. This unforeseen event made Qin Feiyang frown. Clang! Before he could think about it carefully, a deafening sound suddenly rang out in the broken secret chamber, followed by an earth-shattering power. The broken secret chamber was instantly shattered and turned into dust. A strand of starlight shot out explosively from within the dust, and it shot towards Qin Feiyang like a bolt of lightning, causing Qin Feiyang to feel an extremely great sense of danger. A high-grade sovereign weapon. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched, and he decisively retreated. What entered his sight was an ancient pagoda. It looked like it was made of stars and emitted dazzling starlight. His acting skills are really good, Qin Feiyang muttered. Previously, he almost believed that this secret chamber contained Tian Peng's remnant soul. Fortunately, he didn't let his guard down. Otherwise, this ancient pagoda in front of him would be enough to kill him instantly. This was because this was a high-grade sovereign weapon. If he was caught off guard, even with his abilities, he would definitely die. He dodged it. The ancient pagoda was also very surprised. It thought that it could catch Qin Feiyang off guard, but it didn't expect him to react so quickly. If you know me well enough, you wouldn't be so surprised, Qin Feiyang said. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Needless to say, this ancient pagoda must be the dragon god's sovereign godly weapon. The dragon god must have guessed that he would come to find the heavenly Peng's remnant soul. So he created a secret room and had the ancient pagoda set up an ambush here, catching him off guard. From the looks of it, this dragon god was also a very shrewd person. So you've already discovered that there's a problem here? But that's not important. Anyway, don't even think about leaving today. Guda snorted coldly. Divine might rolled out, crazily attacking Qin Feiyang. You have a good plan. Hold me back. When the dragon god arrives, only death awaits me. But this is where you overestimate yourself. As Qin Feiyang's voice fell, 3,000 incarnations appeared. Rumble. All the ultimate mysteries were instantly activated. Seeing the situation, Gu Ta was shocked. He immediately fled in fear without looking back. This was really a decisive young man. If it was another young man who saw through the other party's conspiracy, he would definitely look down on the other party proudly, showing off his intelligence and ability. But this person, not only did he not, but he also went all out. Sure enough, the geniuses of the divine kingdom couldn't compare to him. Running? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. The 3,000 incarnations waved their hands, and waves of ultimate mysteries flooded the void and the earth, rushing toward the ancient pagoda. Dragon God, save me! Guda roared in despair. Accompanied by a crack, his body shattered on the spot. Just as he was about to be destroyed, a figure descended from the sky. It was the dragon god. Looking at the situation of the ancient pagoda, the dragon god's face sank. His origin force emerged, turning into a 3-foot-long sword and slashed out. The ultimate mysteries of the 3,000 incarnations were immediately shattered, like rotten wood. You came really fast. Qin Feiyang smiled at the dragon god, opened a space-time tunnel, turned around, and left without looking back. He definitely couldn't continue fighting. The origin force of the divine kingdom wasn't something he could compete with. If he stayed for a little longer, he might not be able to escape. Looking at the leaving Qin Feiyang, the dragon god wanted to chase after him, but he was powerless. He turned to look at Guda and said in a deep voice, "Did you expose your whereabouts in advance?" Absolutely not. Guda, who had escaped death, flew to the front of the dragon god, still full of fear. Then why didn't your sneak attack succeed? The dragon god was furious. I can only say that he was too vigilant. Guda sighed. Hearing this, the dragon god couldn't help but clench his fists. Although he didn't want to admit it, the facts had proven that he had underestimated this person all along. If it was someone else who found a secret room hidden underground, and this secret room could even block the probing of divine sense, they would definitely believe that Tian Peng's remnant soul was hidden inside. But this Qin Feiyang still had a vigilant attitude. Not only was he strong, but he was also so vigilant. It seemed that it wouldn't be as easy to get rid of this person. In short, at this moment, he finally recognized the reality. These years, Qin Feiyang and the others were able to easily deal with the encirclement and pursuit of the 3 major races in the divine kingdom. Not because of luck, but because they really had the ability to deal with it. Black Tortoise Realm. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear in the Devil's Land, Long Qin couldn't help but smile bitterly. I didn't expect it to be a trap. If it was her this time, she would definitely suffer a big loss. so we can't just look at the surface of many things. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The white-eyed wolf frowned. According to the current situation, Tian Peng's remnant soul should be in the hands of the dragon god. Yes, including the remnant souls of the other beast gods, they must be in the custody of the dragon god himself. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then, do we still want to go to the lairs of the other beast gods? The white-eyed wolf asked. There's no need for that. Let's go directly to the Sea Clan. Qin Feiyang smiled. The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin looked at each other, suddenly excited. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, But before we go to the Sea Clan, we still need to plan. Plan what? Long Qin was puzzled. Neptune had already gone to the Central Dynasty, and no one could threaten them. They could go directly to the Sea Clan. Although Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, there's still the Dragon God. What if the Sea Clan asks the Dragon God for help? Won't our efforts be in vain? So, we have to think of a way to cut off the connection between the Sea Clan and the Dragon God. Qin Feiyang pondered. Cut off their connection? I'm afraid that's not possible. Unless we can seal off the entire Sea Clan. But if we seal off the Sea Clan, it will alarm the beast race. With the relationship between the beast race and the Sea Clan, the Dragon God will definitely go and investigate. Long Qin was worried. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, it seemed that it would not be so easy to wipe out the entire Sea Clan in one fell swoop. Then, why don't we find an opportunity to destroy the Dragon God's voice transmission stone? The white-eyed wolf suggested. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and Long Qin couldn't help but roll their eyes. Destroying the Dragon God's voice transmission stone would solve the problem? Even if they couldn't use the voice transmission stone, the people of the Sea Clan could personally come to the Dragon God. Besides, there were so many beast venerables, beast gods, and beast emperors in the beast race. There was definitely no shortage of people who could establish a contract bridge with the Sea Clan. This method was meaningless at all. If only there was someone who could restrain the Dragon God. Long Qin muttered. Restrain the Dragon God? Don't joke around. Who has the ability to restrain the Dragon God who controls the power of origin? The white-eyed wolf smiled bitterly. Even if the king and the others came forward, they might not have the ability. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. A cold light flashed in his eyes and said, Since we can't think of a way to get the best of both worlds, then we'll act according to the situation and kill as many as we can. Okay. The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin nodded. With Qin Feiyang's current strength, as long as he was nimble, he should be able to get rid of most of the Sea Clan before the Dragon God heard the news and came to help. But if Frenzy, Li Feng, Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, Dong Jingyang, and brother can come out of seclusion now, then our chances will be greater. Long Qin laughed. I also want to wait for them to come out, but time doesn't allow it. That's because no one knows when the Sea King will return. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Long Qin nodded. Frenzy should be coming out soon. After all, he had already mastered several ultimate mysteries of the strongest law. Long Qin and Li Feng had also mastered one or two ultimate mysteries in the past. But Mu Qing, Dong Jingyang, and Mu Tianyang didn't even have one ultimate mystery of the strongest law. In other words, they had to start from scratch. If they had already comprehended various ultimate laws, it would be very fast. They just needed to fuse them. But now, they needed to comprehend first, and only when they comprehended the corresponding ultimate law could they fuse the ultimate mysteries. It would also take a long time to comprehend the corresponding ultimate law. Don't think so much, get ready to fight. There's no need to show mercy to the Sea Clan. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and appeared above the mountains outside with the two. He immediately opened a space-time tunnel. This space-time tunnel leads to the Sea Clan's holy land, Sea God's Island. Sea God's Island is equivalent to the human clan's supreme mountain, the God Clan's Island, and the purple gold divine Dragon Clan's land. The Sea Clan living on Sea God's Island are basically existences who have mastered the ultimate mysteries of the strongest law. Of course, there are also more outstanding geniuses of the Sea Clan. So, as long as we wipe out Sea God's Island, the Sea Clan will basically be declared extinct. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. White-Eyed Wolf and Li Feng nodded. A murderous aura spread out. Then, the three of them stepped into the space-time tunnel one after another. The coordinates of Sea God's Island were, of course, obtained by Qin Feiyang when he read the memories of the blood-winged sea god. Anyway now, Qin Feiyang knew the situation of the Sea Clan like the back of his hand. Splash! A vast sea was located on the other side of the east continent. The waves were rolling and boundless. A huge island stood in the center of the sea. From afar, it looked like a complete continent floating on the sea. On the island, there were mountains and forests, and ancient trees towered into the sky. A huge city was located in the center of the island. The tall city walls, the ancient buildings, and the magnificent aura were extremely magnificent. Chapter 4150. This was the sacred land of the Sea Clan, Sea God's Island. In addition to Sea God's Island, there were many other islands of various sizes in the sea area. The creatures living on these islands were all members of the Sea Clan. It was no exaggeration to say that. The number of Sea Clan members in the Divine Kingdom was no less than the God Clan. At this moment, Sea God's Island was also heavily guarded. Although Qin Feiyang and the others had never set foot in the Sea Clan's territory, the Sea Clan had been vigilant ever since the Battle of Dragon God Mountain. There was a saying that went, "Prevention is better than cure." They were also worried that Qin Feiyang and the others would come to cause trouble. Especially now, Neptune left the East Continent and went to the Central Dynasty. Near Sea God's Island, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out of the space-time tunnel and looked at the island in front of them. Even from afar, they could sense the powerful auras coming from all directions. "Let's go." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. "Don't worry." Qin Feiyang stopped the white-eyed wolf. With a thought, 3,000 incarnations appeared silently. Surround Sea God's Island. Don't let a single member of the Sea Clan escape. The 3,000 incarnations laughed. Immediately, they scattered in all directions, disappearing from the island like ghosts. After a while, after confirming that the 3,000 incarnations had surrounded Sea God's Island, Qin Feiyang opened another space-time tunnel and said with a smile, "Let's go and give them a surprise." At the same time, on a mountain peak, two sea gods stood in the wind and scanned the sky around them. They were two middle-aged men. One had black wings on his back, and the other had white wings on his back. Don't say. At first glance, they were really similar to the black-winged emperor and the white-winged emperor of the mermaid clan. The black-winged sea god frowned and said, "Actually, we don't have to be so worried. Lord Neptune has the power of origin. Even if Qin Feiyang and the others have 100 guts, they won't dare to cause trouble for us." Indeed, although Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, Qin Feiyang and the others don't know about this. They probably still think that Lord Neptune is in the Sea Clan. The white-winged sea god nodded. This kind of worry was purely superfluous, unless Qin Feiyang had the ability to predict the future and knew that Neptune had left the sea. However, this group of people is truly audacious. They actually dared to kidnap the blood-winged sea god. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I'll let this group of trash experience the consequences of offending our Sea Clan. However, before he finished speaking, the two of them seemed to have discovered something. They looked up into the sky and saw a space-time tunnel appear. The two. Sea God's Island. SS. S's. Gods as gods. The two of them soared into the air to welcome him. However, when the three figures came out of the space-time tunnel, the two changed their expressions. They even rubbed their eyes in disbelief. How could it be these three? This was too accurate, right? Speak of the devil and he will appear? They're not friendly. But don't panic now. Otherwise, when they know that Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, they will definitely take the opportunity to attack us. Go down and secretly inform the dragon god to come and help. The white-winged sea god said. The black-winged sea god nodded. However, before he could leave, Long Chen's gaze was already fixed on him. She teased, "Where are you going?" There was a strange light in her eyes. Obviously, she had quietly activated her fighting soul. The black-winged sea god's eyes trembled. He tried to keep calm and said with a sneer, "Of course I'm going to inform Lord Neptune to come and welcome you, three distinguished guests." He was still hiding it, but he didn't know that Qin Feiyang and the others had already known. And Long Qin had heard what the white-winged sea god had secretly said to him before. "I really don't deserve to be called distinguished guests, but don't be nervous. We're here to visit Lord Neptune." "May I know where Lord Neptune is?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them jokingly. "Let's see how long you can pretend." The black-winged sea god said, "Lord Neptune is of course on the Sea God Island. Don't worry, I'll go and inform him now." "Is that so? Are you going to inform Neptune? Or are you going to send a message to the dragon god?" Long Qin smiled playfully. The black-winged sea god and the others panicked. How did he know what they were planning? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Actually, you don't have to ask the dragon god for help. Because even if you ask the dragon god for help, he won't help you." "What do you mean?" The two of them were surprised. "Because we already know that Neptune is going to the Central Dynasty. But do you know why we found out about this right after the Sea King left?" Qin Feiyang said. The two of them were shocked. They actually knew that Lord Neptune was going to the Central Dynasty? They asked, "How did you know?" "Who else knows that Neptune is going to the Central Dynasty?" Qin Feiyang asked. The two of them pondered for a while, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. "That's right. It was the dragon god himself who told us." Because other than the dragon god, even the king didn't know that Neptune was going to the Central Dynasty. So it's not hard to imagine that they must have informed us. Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Impossible." The two of them shook their heads. "Otherwise, how would we know? To tell you the truth, the dragon god has been unhappy with the Oceanids for a long time. And he has secretly formed an alliance with us. Although we've been acting as if we're mortal enemies during this period of time, it's all just an act for the Oceanic clan, Human clan, God clan, and Golden God clan. In fact, we've been working together to get rid of you. As long as we get rid of the Oceanids, the beast race will be the only overlord of the East Continent. After we get rid of the Oceanids, we'll slowly deal with the gods, humans, and purple gold divine dragons. This way, the 4 continents of the divine kingdom will be under the dragon god's control. So prepare to die." Qin Feiyang raised his head and laughed. All kinds of ultimates appeared. "Damn the dragon god. Everyone listen to my order. Qin Feiyang is attacking. Run for your lives. And find an opportunity to ask the humans, gods, and purple gold divine dragons for help. The dragon god has joined forces with Qin Feiyang to get rid of the 4 races." The 2 sea gods roared. "What? Qin Feiyang is attacking? The dragon god has joined forces with Qin Feiyang? How is this possible?" Their voices were like a bell, shaking the sky. The Oceanids on the Sea God's island ran out and looked up at the sky. Their eyes were trembling. It was indeed Qin Feiyang. At the same time, White-Eyed Wolf and Long Qin looked at each other and looked at Qin Feiyang strangely. This guy's brain is too flexible. He thought of sowing dissension so quickly. In this way, the Oceanids would definitely not ask the dragon god for help. Moreover, This sowing dissension was indeed backed up with evidence. Only the dragon god knew that Neptune had gone to the central dynasty. So, even if the Oceanids were not willing to believe it, they would still be suspicious of the dragon god. Let's go. A few more angry roars were heard. More than 10 figures soared into the sky in an aggressive manner. These were the other sea gods, a total of 19 people, because the blood-winged sea god had fallen into the hands of Qin Feiyang. The 2 sea gods that had stayed in the purple-gold divine dragon clan and the god clan had returned to the sea gods' island after the incident. In short, all the sea gods were present at this moment. "I'll kill you first." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. All the ultimate profound meanings immediately emitted a destructive divine power and attacked the 17 sea gods. White-eyed wolf and Long Qin looked at each other and attacked the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god, respectively. "Don't fight. When our clansmen escape from the sea god's island, we will leave and retreat," the black-winged sea god shouted. "I'm afraid none of your Oceanids will be able to escape from the sea god's island." Long Qin sneered. "You," the black-winged sea god looked at Long Qin in shock and anger. What was going on? Why couldn't he escape this woman's ears no matter what he said? Boom! The battle began. The 17 sea gods in the sky emitted a ruthless light in their eyes. Each of them had activated 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted. The void here was collapsing piece by piece. It was like a scene of doomsday. Quickly finish him off before he activates his 3,000 clones. 17 sea gods and 102 ultimate intents of ultimate laws. Such a lineup could be said to be shocking. Qin Feiyang's eyes couldn't help but turn solemn. The ultimate profound meanings of the law of life and death, coupled with the will of the heavenly Tao, were enough to contend against 12 ultimate profound meanings that also contain the will of the heavenly Tao. Destruction, life, death, space-time, karma, and time. These were the ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. At this time, with the support of the will of the heavenly Tao, each of them was enough to contend against 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. In other words, his 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the sea gods could contend against the 36 ultimate profound meanings of the other party. But it was still far from enough, because even the ultimate profound meanings of the law of life and death and the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the sea gods could only contend against 48 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. It seemed that it was indeed a little difficult to deal with so many sea gods without 3,000 clones. However, the 3,000 clones were now surrounding the sea god's island and couldn't come to support him. He could only rely on himself. Boom! In an instant, more than 100 ultimate profound meanings collided. Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his face couldn't help but turn pale. What's going on? He didn't activate his 3,000 clones. The 17 sea gods were surprised. Even if he had mastered the ultimate profound meaning of the law of life and death and his will of the heavenly Tao was stronger than theirs, he shouldn't be so careless, right? Moreover, from their contact during this period of time, Qin Feiyang wasn't a careless person. Why was he doing this? But soon an uneasy premonition arose in their hearts. But they couldn't tell what it was. They just felt that something big was about to happen. "Don't worry about that. Hurry up and kill them," the black-winged sea god roared. His opponent was the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf's strength and combat awareness were not inferior to his at all. It was difficult to tell who would win. Chapter 3. Release at 9:30. Chapter 4151. Yes. As long as we can kill Qin Feiyang, everything will be solved. Killing intent surged in the eyes of the sea gods. It didn't matter why Qin Feiyang didn't activate his 3,000 clones, as long as they could kill him. Boom! The 17 sea gods charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang dodged again and again, and in just a few breaths his entire body was covered in blood. If it wasn't for his strong foundation, he would have died in the hands of these people. In the blink of an eye, at this moment, countless members of the Sea clan had almost escaped from the island. It was also at this moment the corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted, and he shouted, "Do it!" His voice was like thunder, shaking the sky. The 19 sea gods were surprised. Do it! What did he mean? But in the next moment, they suddenly understood. They also finally understood why Qin Feiyang didn't activate his 3,000 clones. Because his 3,000 clones were surrounding the sea god's island. Boom! As Qin Feiyang's voice fell, a terrifying divine might erupted around the sea god's island. Following closely, the clones rushed out like a pack of wolves. All the ultimate mysteries and the will of the heavenly Tao were not held back. Ah! Screams resounded in the sky. This was a massacre. The strongest person of the Sea clan, Neptune, went to the Central Dynasty. The 19 Sea Venerables were restrained by Qin Feiyang and the other two. But facing those clones, who had the ability to stop them, don't panic. Hurry up and attack together. We have more people we can fight. An elder of the Sea clan roared. This person had white hair and blood wings on his back. He had 6 ultimate mysteries, but 2 of them were ordinary laws, so he didn't master the will of the heavenly Tao. Courting death. As the saying goes, the hunter shoots the bird that sticks out. Seeing this, one of the clones immediately charged towards the old man. Ah! Accompanied by a scream, the old man's blood splattered in the sky, leaving only a wisp of remnant soul. The clone waved his hand, sealed the remnant soul, and continued to kill others. Sealing the remnant soul was naturally to strip them of their ultimate mysteries in the future. Anyway, with the current strength of Qin Feiyang's clones, he could wipe out a large number of them with a wave of his hand. This was because the strength of these incarnations was no different from Qin Feiyang's true body. They could also activate the ultimate profundities of the laws of life and death. And they also possessed the fused will of the heavenly Taos. Are you demons? The 19 sea gods stared at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 as they gritted their teeth in anger. Devil, why didn't you reflect on yourselves when you joined forces to kill us? A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he swept his gaze over the shattered sea god's island. The oceanic species had too many experts. Even if the 3,000 clones could fight against 100 of them, they would not be able to finish them off in a short period of time. He had to speed up. Although no one was sending a telepathic message to the dragon god for help now, the dragon god would receive the news sooner or later. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, Mu Tianyang and the fiend ancestor appeared. As soon as the 2 of them appeared and saw the scene, they were stunned. What were they trying to do now? You have already integrated 1 or 2 ultimate profundities. It shouldn't be a problem for you to protect yourselves. Hurry up and use your eyes of despair and evil eyes to help the 3,000 clones. Qin Feiyang urged. Okay. The 2 of them nodded, although they didn't know what was going on. Since it was Qin Feiyang's request, they naturally couldn't neglect it. Whoosh! The 2 of them took a step forward and rushed into the island. The eyes of despair and evil eyes were instantly activated. Any oceanic species that were targeted by the eyes of despair immediately fell into the abyss of despair, trembling on the ground. The eyes of evil was even more terrifying. It directly controlled the oceanic species to kill each other. The strongest fighting soul. Eyes of despair, the 19 sea gods murmured. Damn it! All of you deserve to die. All of a sudden, the 19 oceanic gods roared as they bared their fangs, and they charged towards Qin Feiyang's group of 3 as if they'd gone mad. Without the 3,000 clones, even if your strength is heaven-defying, you won't be able to escape death today. One of the sea gods roared. Before saying this, I advise you to count the number of clones carefully. Qin Feiyang sneered. What? The group of sea gods was shocked. Do you think I'm unprepared? Qin Feiyang moved his mind, and 10 clones appeared beside him. The bodies of the sea gods stiffened. I already knew that there are 19 sea gods here, so I deliberately left 10 clones behind. In other words, there are only 2,990 clones surrounding the sea god island. Although the number is still not as good as yours, the quality is far above yours. You should be prepared. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang and the 10 clones immediately stepped forward and activated their ultimate profundities and charged toward the 17 sea gods. It was almost a 1 versus 2 situation. However, if the current Qin Feiyang were to fight one-on-one, not to mention 1 against 2, even 1 against 6 or 7 wouldn't be a problem. Because even if there were 6 or 7 opponents, the total number of ultimate profundities would only add up to more than 40. Boom! With the appearance of these 10 clones, the battle immediately became one-sided. The 17 sea gods were covered in wounds in just a few breaths. However, the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin had both met their opponents, because the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god were almost on par with them. However, if they continued to fight, the 2 sea gods would definitely lose, because the white-eyed wolf had already activated his fighting soul and deprived the 2 of their cultivation while fighting. Why did he deprive the 2 sea gods of their cultivation? Because firstly, the speed of depriving them of their cultivation was faster than depriving them of their laws. Secondly, if their laws were deprived by the white-eyed wolf's fighting soul, they would lose them forever. At that time, it would be equivalent to losing a few ultimate profundities of ultimate profundities. This was a losing business. At the same time, the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god were also aware of the crisis. Because of the change in their cultivation, they could clearly feel it. The black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god looked at each other, and a hint of ruthlessness flashed in their eyes at the same time. Without any warning, 2 divine weapons appeared. A sky-blue treasure mirror flickered with divine light, illuminating the heavens. A battle axe, blood-red all over, was like a peerless, ferocious object, with a monstrous, baleful aura. These 2 divine weapons were both mid-level Dominator divine weapons. The 2 sea gods took them out without any warning. That was to catch the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin off guard. However, they had underestimated the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin too much. The God clan, the human clan, the purple-gold divine dragon clan, including the beast sovereign, all had powerful Dominator divine weapons. As one of the Dominator's confidants, how could the sea clan not have one? So, although they didn't say it out loud, in their hearts, they were already on guard at all times. Just as the 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons attacked the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin's angel sword attacked. Clang! At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was fighting with the other 17 sea gods, had a hint of mockery in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, the flame magic sword appeared. Like a bolt of lightning, it instantly cut through the sky and landed in front of the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf grabbed the flame magic sword and fought the 2 sea gods together with Long Qin. What kind of monsters are they to be able to react so suddenly? The black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god became more and more shocked as they fought. They felt that the battle experience and consciousness of this group of young people were even more terrifying than the old antiques who had experienced life and death. You want to turn the tables with just 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons? Hurry up and take out your high-level Dominator divine weapon. Qin Feiyang slapped a sea god with his palm, and the power of life and death roared out like a torrent. The already seriously injured sea god flew out on the spot, blood staining the sky. It seems that your sea clan's high-level Dominator divine weapon should be on Neptune. Then it's a pity. You have no chance of turning the tables. Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes. He activated Instant Time and rushed in front of the sea god, grabbed the wings on his back and tore them off. The sea god was in heart-wrenching pain. In fact, even if Neptune hadn't taken away the high-level Dominator divine weapon, the Sea Clan wouldn't have had a chance to turn the tables. Let's fight it out with them. Self-destruct. One of the sea gods roared. No, although we have split our divine souls in advance, our clansmen haven't. If we self-destruct, our clansmen will all die. The other sea gods roared through voice transmissions. Even if we don't self-destruct, our clansmen will all die in their hands. What's the difference? Self-destruct. As long as we can drag them to hell, our clansmen's sacrifice will be worth it. The sea god who advocated self-destructing side. Not good. They want to self-destruct. Longqin roared. Self-destruct? They have to get our permission first. The white-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyang sneered. The 10 clones suddenly unleashed wisps of even more terrifying power. Now, they were going all out. What? They didn't use their full strength before? The sea god's expressions changed. The 10 clones waved their hands. 10 kingdoms of life and death, 60 ultimate laws, and ultimate profundities blasted toward the 17 sea gods. Accompanied by screams, the bodies of the 17 sea gods were shattered in the void at almost the same time. Blood stained the surroundings. Their divine souls were also severely injured. Want to self-destruct and die together? Is that possible? Qin Feiyang looked at the remnant souls of the sea gods and sneered. Why is it that no matter what we say in secret you can know? The group of sea gods was furious. Because we are gods. The 10 clones laughed. We are gods. The eyes of the group of sea gods trembled. Although this sentence was a bit absurd, at this moment, when it fell into their ears, it carried an invisible aura that shocked their hearts and minds. In a trance, this Qin Feiyang and the 10 clones in front of them really looked like the clones of gods. Strip. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf roared, and the black-winged sea god and white-winged sea god's cultivation suddenly fell to the perfected Dominator realm. What? The 2 sea gods suddenly panicked. The next moment, a fatal crisis struck. Longqin and the white-eyed wolf attacked, and their physical bodies were shattered on the spot. Only a remnant soul was left. At this moment, the 20 sea gods of the Oceanic clan were all wiped out. Seeing this, the 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons immediately turned around and fled for their lives. The white-eyed wolf was about to chase after them. Qin Feiyang shouted, "Don't chase, quickly seal their remnant souls. Don't let them self-destruct." Compared to the Dominator divine weapons, the ultimate profundities of the 2 sea gods were more valuable. Chapter 4152. Consider yourselves lucky. The white-eyed wolf stared at the 2 mid-level sovereign weapons and snorted. He then quickly sealed the 2 remnant souls of the sea gods. On the other side, the 10 avatars had also sealed the remnant souls of the 17 sea gods. They had won the battle high up in the sky. On the island below, many members of the Oceanic tribe were in despair when they saw this scene. Neptune wasn't here. The 19 sea gods were the pillars of the Oceanic tribe. But now, the 19 sea gods had been annihilated. Even the 2 mid-level sovereign weapons had fled for their lives. Even the sea gods who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao couldn't stop Qin Feiyang and the others. How could they stop them? If the appearance of the 3,000 avatars and the demon ancestor had made them on the verge of collapse, then the death of the 19 sea gods had undoubtedly made them collapse completely. Don't kill us, please." Many of the younger members of the Oceanic tribe were so frightened that they knelt on the ground and kowtowed to beg for mercy. These young members of the Oceanic tribe were either prodigies who had mastered the ultimate profound meaning or core members of the Oceanic tribe. They had noble statuses, and countless people respected them. At the same time, being able to stay on the sea god's island was also something they could show off. But now, they couldn't wait to leave this damned place. They had never thought that the supreme holy land of the Oceanic tribe would be facing such a disaster. "No, Lord Neptune, where are you? Come back and save us!" The entire sea god's island was filled with desperate cries. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the 17 remnant souls of the Oceanic tribe into the ancient castle's cultivation room. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin and said, "Come and help." The battle had been going on for so long. The dragon god should have sensed the situation here. He had to capture as many members of the Oceanic tribe as possible. Whoosh! With the addition of Qin Feiyang and the other 2 avatars, as well as the blazing magic sword and the angel sword, it was an even more devastating scene. Some members of the Oceanic tribe couldn't bear the despair and chose to self-destruct. With Mu Tianyang and Demon Alpha there, they could not self-destruct. That was how scary the Eye of Despair and Evil Eye were. The Eyes of Despair would cause the opponent to fall into the abyss of despair, causing them to lose all courage. The Evil Eye, on the other hand, controlled the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the opponent. Therefore, these 2 fighting souls were actually used to control the emotions of living beings. You want to self-destruct? Unless you can get rid of despair and manipulation. But how many living beings in the world could easily escape from it? Even the cold-blooded and merciless devils had despair and desires hidden in their hearts. Furthermore, if it was so easy to get rid of it, could it still be called the strongest fighting soul in the world? Time passed quietly. At this moment, 2/3 of the sea tribe members on the sea god's island had already been reduced to remnant souls. The broken sea god's island was dyed red with blood. Looking from afar, it was like an Azura hell, a ghastly sight. Boom! Right at this moment, in the sky, suddenly, a space-time tunnel appeared. A terrifying aura rushed out of the space-time tunnel. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 raised their heads, a cold light flashing in their eyes, because the owner of this aura was none other than the dragon god. "Let's go! 1,000 Phoenix Mountain, meet up!" Qin Feiyang shouted secretly. There was no greed. The dragon god had descended. They had to leave. Facing such an existence, they had to be decisive. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. All of a sudden, the 3,000 incarnations opened a space-time tunnel one after another, bringing along their sealed remnant souls, turned around and left without looking back. Qin Feiyang also opened a space-time tunnel, but he stood in front of the tunnel and didn't leave immediately. Swish! High in the sky, the dragon god finally walked out of the space-time tunnel. Looking at the current sea god's island, his expression changed drastically. "Lord Dragon God, thank you for informing us. This junior will definitely repay you generously in the future." Qin Feiyang opened his mouth and smiled. After saying this, he turned around and entered the space-time tunnel with the white-eyed wolf, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. It's Qin Feiyang's voice. The dragon god looked in the direction of the voice and happened to see Qin Feiyang and the other 2 disappearing figures. Suddenly, a monstrous, murderous aura erupted from his body. Scoundrel! He actually came to massacre the sea god's island. This was intolerable. However, seeing the dragon god descend, especially after hearing Qin Feiyang's words before leaving, the survivors of the Sea clan gathered together and stared at the dragon god warily. At the same time, their eyes were filled with resentment and hatred. "Why are you staring at me like that?" The dragon god furrowed his brows. "You know very well in your heart." Someone roared. The dragon god raised his eyebrows. Suddenly, he remembered Qin Feiyang's words before leaving. Thank you for informing him. He would definitely repay him generously in the future. What did this mean? Swish! Right then, the king, the divine king, and the supremes of the human race arrived slowly. Looking at the sea god's island in front of them, they couldn't help but feel shocked. This group of little guys really knew how to cause trouble. They had rushed over after receiving the news. Although previously, the 3,000 clones had deliberately prevented the Sea Clan from spreading the news. There were too many Sea Clan members on the Sea God's island. There would always be someone who would find an opportunity. At first, when the king and the other two heard the news, they were in extreme disbelief. The Sea God's island was the sacred land of the Sea Clan. This group of little guys dared to attack the Sea God's island? Unexpectedly, when they came over, it was really so. Of course, their visit this time was just a formality, because if they really came to support, it wouldn't be just the three of them. What's going on? Where are Neptune and the Sea God? The monarch pretended to be surprised. King, divine king, supremes, the rest of the Sea Clan members flew to the three of them. Even if the remaining Sea Clan members were only 1/3 of the original number, there were at least hundreds of thousands of them. Don't panic, speak slowly. The divine king comforted them. It's all because of him. He tipped off Qin Feiyang and asked Qin Feiyang to come to the Sea God's island to kill us. An old man pointed at the dragon god and roared. What? The king and the other two looked at the dragon god in disbelief and asked, You colluded with Qin Feiyang? What nonsense are you talking about? How could I have colluded with them? The dragon god roared. He looked at the group of Sea Clan members and said in a deep voice, Speak clearly, what's going on? Don't put on an act here. The Sea Clan members were filled with righteous indignation. Why should I put on an act? The dragon god roared. The old man said in a deep voice, Are you the only one who knows that Lord Neptune went to the Central Dynasty? What? Neptune went to the Central Dynasty. The king and the other two were stunned. Although they had already heard about it from Qin Feiyang, they still had to pretend that they didn't know. Yes, I also heard it from Lord White-Winged Sea God. Lord White-Winged Sea God said that because the dragon god killed Ji Tianfeng, Lord Neptune went to the Central Dynasty out of goodwill and asked the people of the Central Dynasty to mediate. But we didn't expect that not long after Lord Neptune left, Qin Feiyang led people to kill our Sea God's island. The old man's face was filled with grief. The king and the other two looked at each other and immediately looked at the dragon god. He said angrily, So you colluded with them and now you're accusing us. You really know how to act. I didn't. If I really colluded with them, if I really told them, why would I rush to the Sea God's island to check the situation? The dragon god roared. Don't pretend. 19 Lord White-Winged Sea Gods were all captured by them. 2/3 of the people on the Sea God's island fell into their hands. What's the point of you rushing over now? The Sea Clan members stared at the dragon god with resentment. What? All of your sea gods were captured. The king and the other two were aghast. Yes, including Lord White-Winged Sea God. All of our sea gods were wiped out. Monarch, deity king, Jizun, you must seek justice for us. The group of Sea Clan members cried out in grief. Don't worry, we won't stand by and watch this matter. When we return, we will immediately send more people to hunt down Qin Feiyang and his group. No matter what, we will rescue your people. The king said in a deep voice. Thank you, king. The Sea Clan members shed tears of gratitude. Dragon God, give me your life. At this time, accompanied by a roar, the two mid-level Dominator Divine weapons that escaped came back aggressively and directly attacked the Dragon God. How many times do I have to say it? I didn't collude with them. The Dragon God roared and kept dodging. However, these were two mid-level Dominator divine weapons after all, and their killing intent was aroused. In just a few moments, the dragon god's body was covered in blood. As long as you know that Neptune went to the Central Dynasty, who else could it be but you? Moreover, this is what Qin Feiyang said himself. Neptune is running around for your trivial matter, but you are plotting against the Sea clan behind his back. You are worse than an animal. The two mid-level Dominator divine weapons were furious. The dragon god was also angry. His origin force appeared and easily shattered the two divine weapons. He said in a deep voice, "When Neptune comes back, I will explain it to him face to face." After saying that, he turned and left with a gloomy face. "Don't go." The two mid-level Dominator divine weapons roared. The king stopped them and shook his head. "You are not his opponent. Don't go to your deaths. But are we going to let this matter go?" The two divine weapons said angrily, "Let's wait for Neptune to come back. Calm your people first. We will go back and think of a way to rescue the sea god." After saying that, the king gave the divine king and the human supreme a look. The two understood, opened a space-time tunnel, and left. Chapter 4153. Haha, Mount Supreme. Inside a large hall. As soon as the three giants appeared, they released a soundproof barrier and laughed heartily. Not only did they cause the sea race to suffer heavy losses, but they also dragged the dragon god down. Now, the dragon god won't be able to clear his name even if he jumps into the Yellow River. The dragon god has indeed fallen into the hands of these brats this time. However, there's a question that I must be puzzled about. What question? Why didn't Qin Feiyang and the others kill the sea gods directly? The divine king was puzzled. The human race supreme said, "The sea gods have split their divine souls. It's not good to kill them, right?" That's right. Killing them is equivalent to letting them go. But if they are imprisoned in the Black Tortoise world, then the divine souls of the sea gods will become meaningless. The king nodded. Yes, for the sea gods that is indeed the case. But what about the rest of the sea race? You also heard that Qin Feiyang kidnapped 2/3 of the sea race on the sea gods' island. Think about it, with Qin Feiyang's current strength, if he really wants to slaughter the sea gods' island, it's just a matter of minutes. But why did he go through so much trouble? The divine king was puzzled. When the king and the human race supreme heard these words, they couldn't help but be stunned. That's right. If Qin Feiyang and the others went all out, they could completely destroy the entire sea gods' island in the shortest time possible and kill all the sea race on the island. Why did they have to make it so complicated? Shatter the bodies of the sea race one by one and seal their remnant souls? Actually, the three giants were right. If it wasn't for the fact that they had to keep them alive, the current sea gods' island would have been reduced to ashes. Destroying it was of course simple. In any case, regardless of whether the other party was dead or alive, they would all be killed without mercy. But if they were left alive, the situation would be different. Because when they attacked, they had to control their strength well. Otherwise, if they were not careful, the other party's soul would be destroyed. The efficiency naturally couldn't compare to the former. Hearing you say that, it is indeed a little strange. The divine king lowered his head. Instead of directly destroying the sea god's island and killing all the members of the sea god's island, they had left all of them alive. What were these little fellows trying to do? What are we doing here, pondering about it? Why don't we just ask them directly? The human clan supreme master said, "Yes, send them a message." The divine king nodded and took out a divine sound transmission stone. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's trio and their 3,000 incarnations were gathered at 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. There was a huge barrier in front of him. Inside the enchantment, there were all sealed remnant souls, at least 500,000 to 600,000. How do you feel about this plan? Qin Feiyang turned to look at Long Qin and asked, 2 words, exciting. Long Qin chuckled. Don't worry. If you follow us, there will be many exciting things like this in the future. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. Long Qin was quite excited when he heard this. Gradually, he fell in love with this feeling. Wang. At this moment, the divine sound transmission stone rang. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He took out the divine sound transmission stone and checked it. What's wrong? The 2 of them looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent all the sealed remnant souls to the Soul Sealing Valley. The Soul Sealing Valley had been rebuilt, and it was the same as before. Without a certain amount of perseverance, one would not be able to withstand it. Of course, they were sent to the Soul Sealing Valley not to torture the Sea Clan, but because there were too many remnant souls and the ancient castle could not hold them all. But now there were also creatures in the West region. It was not good to send them there, so they were sent to the Soul Sealing Valley. The Soul Sealing Valley was notorious. Within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, there was not a single creature that would not be affected. Immediately afterward, Qin Feiyang dispersed his 3,000 incarnations and brought the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin to the tea garden in the Devil's Land. Only then did he activate the divine sound transmission stone. 3 figures appeared. So it's them, the white-eyed wolf muttered. You guys are really good at making trouble. The divine king chuckled. So, the white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. The smug look on his face was hard to hide. The divine king rolled his eyes and went straight to the point. He frowned and said, Your plan this time is indeed perfect, but there is one thing I don't understand. Why do you want to leave all of them alive? So this is what you want to ask. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. What are you guys planning? The king and the human race's supreme being were also suspicious. Can you keep it a secret first? Qin Feiyang laughed. The corners of their mouths twitched. The white-eyed wolf grinned and said, When the time is right, I promise to give you guys a big surprise. Surprise? When I see it, it might turn into shock. The divine king rolled his eyes. Maybe. The white-eyed wolf nodded. When the 3 heard this, their faces were full of helplessness. It seemed that they couldn't get anything out of him. The king asked, Then what's the next step of your plan? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, I don't have the next step for the time being. I plan to rest for a while. Rest? The 3 of them were stunned. This answer was really a little unexpected. They thought that this group of little guys would take advantage of Neptune's absence to pursue the victory and completely overthrow the Sea Clan. They didn't expect that they would choose to rest at this time. Since we entered the Divine Kingdom, we have been dealing with the 3 major clans. During this time, we have been constantly competing with the Beast Clan and the Sea Clan. To be honest, we are a little tired. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. So you also know how to feel tired. The Divine King looked at Qin Feiyang in amusement. I am also a human, okay? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Are you a human? The Divine King asked and shook his head. No, you are a little monster. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Fine. Rest if you want. It is also a good time to adjust your state and deal with the people of the Central Dynasty. The Divine King said. I think so too. Qin Feiyang nodded. The conversation ended. The Divine King pondered for a while and said with a smile, Then we will send more people to search for these little bastards. Yes. After all, we have to make it look good. How about this? We will let those spies take full responsibility. First, it will show our trust in them. Second, it will prevent them from suspecting us. The king smiled. Okay. The Divine King and the human Ji Zun nodded. Preposterous. Qin Feiyang, Golden Wing Wolf King, Long Qin, if I don't kill you, I am not human. Dragon God Mountain. The more the Dragon God thought about it, the angrier he became. He was about to go crazy. First, they used Ji Tianfeng's death to make him the target of public criticism. Now, they schemed against him behind his back and became the target of the Oceanids' resentment. One after another, they did not even give him time to catch his breath. They are obviously trying to kill you. The golden tiger beside him also had a gloomy expression. On one hand, he was angry. On the other hand, he was afraid. He was angry because of Qin Feiyang and the others' vicious plan. He was afraid because Qin Feiyang and the others did not want to give the dragon god a way out. Don't worry, I will not be defeated so easily. Besides, Neptune is a reasonable person. He will believe me. I asked you to check their whereabouts. How is it? The dragon god asked. How? They are like ghosts. They appear in the West Continent, the South Continent, and the Oceanids. The golden tiger smiled bitterly. If these people had a base, it would not be difficult to find them with the power of the beast race. But the problem now was that this group of people were all intruders. He could settle down anywhere he wanted. Moreover, they had nothing to worry about in the divine kingdom. They wanted to find a hostage to threaten them, but there was no chance. It seems that we can only wait for the people of the central dynasty to arrive. Bastard. Let them be proud for a while. The dragon god clenched his fists. Ah. Black Tortoise Realm. Ancient Castle. Qin Feiyang and the other two entered the cultivation room, looked at the 20 sea gods and smiled. You guys are finally reunited. Shouldn't you thank me for giving you this opportunity to reunite? The 20 sea gods were filled with monstrous anger. At the same time, Sky Peng was shocked to the extreme. How long had it been? All the sea gods of the Oceanids had become Qin Feiyang's captives. At this moment, he couldn't help but think in his heart, what kind of existence did they provoke? Kill us if you have the ability. The blood-winged sea god roared. Kill you? Then it's as you wish. Qin Feiyang chuckled. I don't believe that you can really trap us here for the rest of our lives. When Lord Neptune returns, it will be your doomsday. The black-winged sea god grinned. Don't worry about this. I will definitely not imprison you for the rest of your lives. After I complete my purpose, I will naturally release you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Purpose? Sky Peng and the group of sea gods were surprised. What purpose did he have to imprison them for? What about the rest of our people? The white-winged sea god said in a deep voice. They're not dead. They are imprisoned somewhere like you. Maybe I will release them in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. These words made Sky Peng and the group of sea gods even more confused. Not killing them, just imprisoning them? What kind of trick was this person playing? You guys just stay here and rest. Qin Feiyang smiled, then turned around and left the cultivation room with the white-eyed wolf and descended above the soul-sealing valley. There are so many sea tribe members. I wonder how many ultimate mysteries they have? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. It may far exceed our expectations. Qin Feiyang smiled. Even if only half of the sea tribe members mastered one ultimate mystery, it would still be 200,000 to 300,000. Taking another step back, even if only a small half of the sea tribe members mastered ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws, they would still be able to obtain tens of thousands of ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. And the 6,000 dark guards, plus Pei Tianhong, Wang Xiaojia, the 5-clawed golden dragon, and the other beasts only needed about 30,000 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. Maybe there would still be a lot left by then. The rest could be brought back to the Sky Cloud realm and let the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, the Little Rabbit, Yunzing, the Masked Shura, and the others merge with them. As expected, his decision to come to the Divine Kingdom was the right one. If he didn't come to the Divine Kingdom, even if Long Chen agreed to help him, he wouldn't be able to find his target. Bitch, why don't we go and find your big brother now? The white-eyed wolf couldn't wait and asked Long Chen. Chapter 4154. What's the hurry? Are you afraid they'll run away? Long Qin rolled his eyes at him. Isn't this to prevent any accidents from happening? Let's talk about it later. The white-eyed wolf leaned close to Long Qin's ear and whispered, The sooner we deprive them of their ultimate meaning, the sooner we confuse them. When the time comes to face the central dynasty, we'll have more confidence. That makes sense. Long Qin nodded and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, asking, I've also contributed a lot, right? Qin Feiyang was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, Just say what you want to say. I want to fuse all the ultimate meanings. Long Qin secretly said, All the ultimate meanings? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes, I have already mastered 6 ultimate meanings of supreme laws, and there are still several ultimate meanings of supreme laws that I haven't mastered yet. Moreover, I can't abandon the ordinary ultimate meanings of supreme laws. Long Qin transmitted his voice. Yes, this is such a good opportunity. Why don't we take the opportunity to fuse all the ultimate meanings? The white-eyed wolf slapped his head. Whether it was the sky cloud realm or the divine kingdom, there was no one who had mastered all the ultimate meanings. All the ultimate meanings referred to all the supreme laws and all the ordinary laws. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. He still had several supreme laws that he hadn't mastered yet. For example, the Devour Law, the Nothingness Law, and the Law of Light and Darkness. As for the ordinary ultimate meanings, he was still far from mastering them. If he could master all the ultimate meanings, he would truly stand at the pinnacle of cultivation. What do you think? Long Qin asked. Who's with whom now? What's mine is yours. You're welcome. Qin Feiyang laughed. At least you have some conscience. I'll go find Big Brother now. If he doesn't want to come out, I'll drag him here directly. Long Qin turned around and rushed toward the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other, their eyes filled with anticipation. The White-Eyed Wolf was bewildered. He pondered for a while and then sent his voice to Shi Yan. Little Qin Zi, if we do that, the others will follow us and fuse all the ultimate powers Upanishads. Should we hold back then? For example, Qin Feiyang asked. Long Qin doesn't need to say anything. Without his help, even if there are so many oceanic species in front of us, we can only watch helplessly. So, if he wants it, we must satisfy him unconditionally. However, if people like Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, Fiend Ancestor, and Dong Jingyang also master all the ultimate profoundness, we won't be able to suppress them if they turn against us in the future. I feel that letting them grasp the will of the heavenly Tao is already doing them justice. There's no need to fuse all the ultimate mysteries. White-Eyed Wolf transmitted his voice. You still haven't let down your guard against them. Qin Feiyang snickered. Do you dare to say that you completely trust them now? White-Eyed Wolf asked. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and said to himself, I can't say that I completely trust them, but at least I'm not wary of them now. Anyway, I just feel that we have to guard against some things. White-Eyed Wolf muttered to himself. I understand what you're saying. However, if they see that we've all mastered the ultimate mysteries, but they haven't, they might be displeased. I'm afraid that it'll backfire. Qin Feiyang was worried. That means that they're really White-Eyed Wolf. Think about it. How did they obtain their strongest battle souls? We helped them obtain them. Of course, Dong Jingyang is a different story. He won the Eye of Destiny with his own abilities and character. But if you hadn't allowed them to stay in the Black Tortoise world all these years, and if we hadn't protected them, would they have survived until now? I'm afraid that they would have died long ago. We'll talk about it later. Where did the ultimate mysteries that they fused come from? We gave them those ultimate mysteries. If they still don't know how to be grateful and come to hate us, then I'll be really pissed. I'll strip them of their ultimate mysteries. White-Eyed Wolf snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. White-Eyed Wolf's words made sense. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang said to himself, "Why don't we use this opportunity to test their attitude?" "What do you mean?" White-Eyed Wolf was suspicious. "Let's exclude them first and see what their attitude is. If they really hate us because of this, then we won't give them any more resources. However, if they're satisfied and grateful to us, then we'll fulfill their wishes." Qin Feiyang thought to himself, "That works too. If that's the case, then it doesn't matter if we fulfill their wishes." White-Eyed Wolf nodded his head. In fact, Qin Feiyang didn't care what he did. However, White-Eyed Wolf was his best brother and most reliable partner. He had to respect White-Eyed Wolf's decision. In other words, this was a big family. He wasn't the only one who had the final say. Everyone had the right to express their opinions. "Girl, why are you in such a hurry? Can't you wait for me to come out of seclusion? I think you're becoming more and more like White-Eyed Wolf." At this time, accompanied by a complaining voice, Long Qin dragged Long Qin over. Long Qin had a helpless look on her face. "Don't talk nonsense. You make it sound like I've led her astray." White-Eyed Wolf glared at her. Long Qin rolled her eyes. "Do you think you're a good person?" "That's right. That's pure nonsense. Who is he and who am I? How can he be compared with me?" Long Qin looked at White-Eyed Wolf with a look of disdain. "Brother, you have a bad temper." White-Eyed Wolf was annoyed. "I gave you some color, and you started a dye factory." Calm down, calm down. Don't forget that she has the angel sword." Qin Feiyang reminded him secretly. White-Eyed Wolf's face froze. "Fine. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Otherwise, it would be too ungentlemanly." In fact, he was afraid of being beaten up. Long Qin pointed at the hundreds of thousands of remnant souls that were trapped and said with a smile, "Brother, look, the prey has been prepared for you. You just need to move your little hands. It's no trouble." "So many?" When Long Qin looked over, he was filled with shock. "How is it? This is all my credit. Your sister didn't let you down, did she?" Long Qin smiled proudly. "Shameless," White-Eyed Wolf muttered. Long Qin raised her eyebrows and immediately stared fiercely at White-Eyed Wolf, as if saying, "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll cut you." Long Qin looked quite surprised when he saw White-Eyed Wolf and Long Qin. This unruly and lawless wolf cub was actually so afraid of his younger sister. It seemed that even if he was not here, the person who would suffer would not be Shao Qin. Of course, it would not be Long Qin. It had always been White-Eyed Wolf who was at a disadvantage. Over the years, White-Eyed Wolf had been beaten up by Long Qin many times. The key was, White-Eyed Wolf could only wait to be beaten up. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Qin and said with a smile, "If you really don't want to now, then we'll talk about it after you come out of seclusion." "Don't. I've brought her here. Aren't you deliberately undermining me by saying this now?" Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. "I say, Qin, when did you become so like-minded with them?" Long Qin turned to look at Long Qin. This younger sister of his had changed so much that she was no ordinary person. "No way. I'm definitely still on your side." Long Qin giggled. Long Qin shook his head speechlessly. He looked at the remnant souls and said with a wry smile, "This is a lot of work. 560,000 members of the Sea clan. Just thinking about it was terrifying. So you have to work hard." Long Qin waved her small fist and said encouragingly, "Silly girl." Long Qin knocked on her head and nodded. "Okay, I'll work hard." "Thank you, brother." Hearing this, Long Qin left and hugged Long Chen's arm coquettishly. Long Qin rubbed her head lovingly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "However, to strip their laws, we still need them to reconstruct their bodies. So, you have to ask the mermaid princess to come as well." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. With a thought, The mermaid princess immediately appeared beside him. What's wrong? The mermaid princess had been in seclusion to comprehend the laws. Now that Qin Feiyang suddenly brought her here, she was a little stunned. Help them reconstruct their bodies, but don't repair their sea of qi. Qin Feiyang smiled. And don't repair their divine souls. It's fine as long as they have consciousness. Long Qin also reminded. The people here were basically all paragon sovereigns. If their divine souls were completely repaired, it would be very troublesome to control them. This was because even if he used the soul control technique, if the other party's divine soul was not damaged, the other party's resistance might cause him to suffer backlash. Okay, the mermaid princess nodded. The Eye of Life opened. Endless life energy surged toward the barrier. A shocking scene immediately appeared. The hundreds of thousands of Sea tribe members who were left with only remnant souls were reconstructing their bodies at a speed visible to the naked eye. One had to know, for creatures of this level, even with the time array, it would take hundreds of years to repair their bodies. But now, with the help of the Eye of Life, in just a few blinks of an eye, their bodies were completely reconstructed. As expected, none of the strongest battle souls were undeserved. As their bodies were reconstructed and their remnant souls were slightly repaired, the hundreds of thousands of Sea tribe members gradually regained consciousness. When they saw the unfamiliar surroundings, they immediately panicked. What was this place? The underworld? Soon, when they saw Qin Feiyang and the others outside the barrier, their faces were immediately filled with fear. The scene that happened on the Sea God's island immediately appeared in their minds. In other words, they were not dead. However, they were not happy at all, because, although they were not dead, falling into the hands of this group of demons was probably more painful than death. Don't be nervous. We won't hurt you. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. The hundreds of thousands of Sea tribe members were frightened. The way he bared his teeth was a little creepy, no matter how they looked at it. Don't struggle. If you struggle, you will all die. Long Qin stared at the group of people and said coldly. Then he looked at Long Qin and urged, "Brother, hurry up." Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. Their hearts were filled with anticipation. How many ultimate laws would these hundreds of thousands of Sea tribe members have? They were even a little nervous in their hearts. Chapter 4155. Long Qin couldn't help but laugh. All of them were more impatient than anyone else. However, hundreds of thousands of oceanic species were indeed worth looking forward to. He placed his hands in front of his chest and began to form seals. What are you trying to do? A group of young men and women in their 20s stared at them in horror. You'll know soon enough. White-eyed Wolf grinned. Before he finished speaking, Long Chan waved his hand and blood-red seals appeared one after another. Feeling the strange aura emitted by the blood-red seals, hundreds of thousands of oceanic species couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. Lord Neptune won't let you go. Someone roared. From their expressions, it was obvious that it wasn't something good. Neptune! You don't have to worry about that. Long Qin sneered. Even at this point, they still wanted to threaten them. He had never seen such a naive person. At the same time, Long Chen's eyes flashed and 100 blood-red seals flew into the barrier and disappeared into the heads of the 100 people. Can only control 100 people at a time? White-eyed Wolf frowned. Yes, the soul-controlling technique is different from other control techniques. It consumes a large amount of mental energy. Long Qin nodded. No wonder you said it's a big project. White-eyed Wolf suddenly understood. He could only control 100 oceanic species at a time. There were a total of 500,000 to 600,000 here. In this way, he would need 5,000 to 6,000 times to control all of them. 5,000 to 6,000 times, how long would that take? Fortunately, The black tortoise world had a time array. Even if it took a few years or decades, it would only be a short while outside. As the soul-controlling technique was successfully completed, the 100 oceanic species immediately became obedient and respectfully knelt in the void. They looked at Long Chen and said, "Greetings, Master." When the other oceanic species saw this scene, their eyes were filled with shock. So they were being controlled. "Let them come out." Long Chen looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the 100 people under his control immediately appeared outside the barrier. Long Chen looked at the 100 members of the oceanic tribes and ordered, "Extract your ultimate Upanishads." Yes, the 100 people nodded respectfully. Among them, most of them were middle-aged, a small portion of them were elderly, and a small portion of them were young. Once Long Chen's words came out, they did not hesitate at all, and immediately began to strip off their respective laws. However, the members of the oceanic tribe inside the spirit formation were horrified when they saw this. So the purpose of controlling them was to strip them of their ultimate meaning? How could such a thing happen? One had to know. For existences at their level, ordinary control-type secret techniques could control their lives, but they could not control their thoughts. However, at this moment, the 100 people who were being controlled did not hesitate at all when they heard Long Chen's words. There were no signs of struggle at all. Just like a puppet, they obeyed his every command. It was hard to imagine. What kind of control-type secret technique was this? "I'd rather die than lose the ultimate Upanishad and hand it over to them." Someone roared. It was hysterical. As soon as these words came out, almost all the members of the oceanic tribe had the thought of destroying their own divine soul. This undoubtedly showed the importance of the soul control technique. Without the soul control technique, these members of the oceanic tribe would not be willing to hand over their ultimate meaning. Not to mention these members of the oceanic tribe. Any living being in the world would not be willing to strip off their ultimate meaning and give it to others. Therefore, without Long Chen's help, it would be meaningless no matter how many living beings Qin Feiyang and the others captured. However, want to destroy their own divine soul. Was it possible? This idea was a little naive. It was not difficult to capture them. Would Qin Feiyang and the others give them the chance to destroy their own divine soul? The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin immediately entered the spirit formation. Their aura rolled out and directly suppressed hundreds of thousands of members of the oceanic tribe. At this moment, regardless of whether they were men or women, their eyes were filled with despair. They were like lambs pressed on the chopping board, unable to do anything but wait for the butcher's knife to fall. A moment passed. Finally, 100 members of the oceanic tribe stripped off their ultimate meaning. Qin Feiyang and the others looked up, and their eyes were filled with surprise. The first batch of 100 oceanic clansmen had a total of 106 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. On average, everyone had an ultimate meaning of the ultimate meaning. As for ordinary ultimate meaning, there were undoubtedly more than 300. There were all kinds of ultimate meaning. 100 members of the oceanic tribe, and we obtain more than 400 ultimate meanings. How much will we get when we strip them all? They could not help but feel excited just thinking about it. It is indeed a little beyond imagination. Long Chen was also deeply shocked. The sea god's island was indeed worthy of being the sacred land of the oceanic tribe. Immediately, he did not stop and began to control the next batch of members of the oceanic tribe. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and urged, "Qiao Shui Li Zhongxing, Old Poison, they are all experienced in this area. Quickly call them over and help count." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. With a thought, Qiao Shui and the other two appeared beside him. Seeing the ultimate meaning floating in the air, the three were dumbfounded. "Don't just stand there. Quickly count." The white-eyed wolf said. Okay. The three nodded. They were indeed experienced. Qiao Shui waved her hand, and a desk appeared. She immediately sat beside the desk and took out a brand new account book. The ultimate meaning of the space-time law, the ultimate meaning of the sword law, the old poison, and Li Zhongxing were counting and shouting at the same time. Qiao Shui quickly recorded it in the book, because when they traded with the undead in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, they were the ones who counted, categorized, and recorded it. All of a sudden, it was bustling here. Young master. This, the old poison counted and looked at Qin Feiang with a flattering smile on his old face. You don't have to say anything. I understand. After it is over, you can choose whatever you want. As long as it can be used and not wasted, it is fine. Qin Feiang waved his hand and smiled. Thank you, young master. The old poison was overjoyed. Li Zhongxing and Qiao Shui were also full of joy. This was a great opportunity. It was something that others didn't even dare to dream of. Following this young master, their future was indeed limitless. Very soon, the incident in Soul Sealing Valley alarmed everyone in the Devil's Land. Everyone ran over. Even Mu Qing and the others who were in seclusion couldn't resist the impulse in their hearts. Without exception, when they arrived at the Soul Sealing Valley and saw the ultimate mysteries, they were all excited. Qin Feiang looked at Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and the demon ancestor. His eyes flickered. In fact, the demon ancestor was trustworthy now. Mu Qing's attitude had also been clear. Mu Tianyang was the only exception. Although it was Mu Qing's decision to scheme against Dong Jingyang last time, and Mu Tianyang had also criticized Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang had never made a very clear statement and let go of the grudges in his heart. Moreover, with Qin Feiang's understanding of Mu Tianyang, this person wouldn't let go so easily. Therefore, he couldn't judge what Mu Tianyang would do in the future. Mu Tianyang was the owner of the evil eye. If he really plotted against everyone behind their backs, no one dared to imagine the consequences. To be safe, it was better to test it out first. Of course, if Mu Tianyang chose to fall out with him after the battle with the Divine Kingdom, it didn't matter. He was worried that if Mu Tianyang stabbed him in the back at the critical moment of the battle with the Divine Kingdom, then he wouldn't even have a place to cry. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed. He looked at Qin Feiang and asked, Little Qin Zi, how do you plan to arrange these ultimate mysteries? Qin Feiang was stunned. Wasn't he asking the obvious? The white-eyed wolf quietly winked at Qin Feiang. Qin Feiang understood. It turned out that the white-eyed wolf was going to test Mu Tianyang and the other two. After understanding, Qin Feiang was also very cooperative. He lowered his head and pretended to think for a moment. Then he said with a smile, Let everyone merge with the 6,000 secret guards first, and see if there are any left in the end. We also have a share. The 6,000 secret guards were stunned. Of course. Qin Feiang nodded and said with a smile, This is prepared for you, and all of you must master the will of heaven. The 6,000 secret guards looked at each other. This was specially prepared for them. In the past, they were just the secret guards of the Blood Hall. Although the secret guards of the Blood Hall used to be feared in the Western continent, they were nothing in front of Qin Feiang. To be honest, they never thought that Qin Feiang would prepare ultimate mysteries for them, because, in their opinion, they were not qualified. But they never thought that Qin Feiang not only did not forget them, but also prepared to let them merge with the ultimate mysteries of the 6 strongest laws and master the will of heaven. The will of heaven? They couldn't help but be excited at the thought of it. Am I dreaming? Hit me and see if it hurts. A secret guard grabbed a good friend next to him and said, Smack! His good friend immediately slapped him. You really hit me? The secret guard's face darkened. Does it hurt? His good friend asked. The other secret guards also stared at him. Yes, the secret guard nodded. Then it's not a dream. Thank you, young master. In the future, we will definitely do our best for young master, until our last breath. The 6,000 secret guards came back to their senses and immediately knelt in the void and shouted, "You should really work hard for young master." Thinking about the past, whether it was when you went to Sky Cloud Island to cultivate or later on, young master never forgot you. Wang Changyuan said with a smile, "That's right. Young master has long left us. We can't let young master down." The other secret guard commanders also said, one after another. Yes, the 6,000 secret guards nodded heavily. Don't make it sound so serious. We are a big family, sharing honor and disgrace. If I don't take care of you, should I take care of outsiders? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Big family, sharing honor and disgrace, the 6,000 secret guards murmured. It turned out that in the eyes of the young master, they were not subordinates, but family. They were very touched. Where could they find such a good young master? If they still had any thoughts of betrayal, it would be really intolerable. Chapter 4156. Qin Feiyang looked at the others. For example, the big black wolf, the 5-clawed golden dragon, Wang Xiaojie, Qin Chen, Long Tianyu, and Xia Yuan, the former general under his ancestor. Not only the dark guards, but all of you must also master the will of the heavenly Tao in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. Master, you're so nice. You're simply my idol. Wang Xiaojie immediately hugged Qin Feiyang's arm excitedly and grinned. You're so talkative. Qin Feiyang shook his head and scolded with a smile. The mermaid emperor laughed hoarsely and said, Old men like us don't need it. Look at what you're saying. I can forget everyone else, but I can't forget you old men. Qin Feiyang looked at the mermaid emperor, the black-winged emperor, the white-winged emperor, and the sword emperor. Isn't that a waste? I'll say it again. If you really think we're bored, hurry up and make a few babies. This is better than giving us more ultimate mysteries. The black-winged emperor laughed. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched as he looked at the mermaid princess. The mermaid princess lowered her head and blushed. We're already an old couple. Why are you still embarrassed? It seems that you two really don't have much affection for each other. The white-winged emperor shook his head. The black-winged emperor moved closer to Qin Feiyang and whispered, Brat, do you want me to teach you a few moves? I guarantee that your life as a couple will be more perfect and happy. Hearing this, even Qin Feiyang's face couldn't help but turn red. He smiled bitterly and said, Old ancestor, can you not make fun of us? You're taking my kindness for granted. The black-winged emperor was dissatisfied. It's not like that. Isn't there still Senior Brother Crazy and the white-eyed wolf? Look at them. They haven't gotten married yet. If you really have nothing to do, you can help them plan first. Qin Feiyang hurriedly shifted the cannon fire. Hearing this, Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, Fire Dance, and Zhuo Shaoxian immediately glared at Qin Feiyang. Ha! Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly and said, Back to the topic. After everyone has fused with the ultimate profound and grasped the will of the great path, if there are any remaining ultimate profound, I plan to let a few people grasp all of them. All ultimate profound meanings? Everyone was stunned. That's right. Regardless of whether it's an ultimate law or an ordinary law, as long as it's a law, I'll be able to grasp it. Qin Feiyang nodded. All laws, everyone murmured. Their eyes were filled with yearning. To tell the truth, no one could remain indifferent to this kind of thing. The ultimate profundities of all laws, once he succeeded, he would become a true pinnacle existence. Mu Qing asked, Do you have a list of names in your mind now? There is a preliminary list. Long Qin, Long Qin. Needless to say, this is what they deserve. The others are me, White-Eyed Wolf, Senior Brother Frenzy Li Feng, and, as Qin Feiyang spoke, he scanned the people around him. Master, there's me. Wang Xiaojie patted his chest, as if he was afraid that he would be forgotten by Qin Feiyang. You? Forget it. I'm still worried that when you become stronger in the future, you'll deceive your master and destroy your ancestors, Qin Feiyang said. Deceive my master and destroy my ancestors? Wang Xiaojie's expression stiffened, and he immediately said with dissatisfaction, Am I that kind of person? Master, if you say that, then I'll be really sad. Go away. Qin Feiyang glared at him and said with a smile, There's also Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan. Because they have followed me for many years, this is what they deserve. Of course, there's also my wife. Qin Feiyang looked at the mermaid princess and sighed. All these years I owe her too much. I hope to do everything possible to make it up to her, although I don't know if she will care about this. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Although on the surface, the mermaid princess didn't do anything earth-shattering. One had to know that a man who could make a living in peace outside was inseparable from the woman behind him. At the very least, no matter what Qin Feiyang did all these years, the mermaid princess didn't interfere and chose to silently support him. Even if Qin Feiyang didn't want to have children, she never complained. Just imagine, after marriage, which woman didn't want a crystallization of love? So, this attitude of the mermaid princess was the greatest support for Qin Feiyang. Of course. And Fire Lotus, Pai Lupi Theta Wang. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of Fire Lotus and smiled. Although all these years, you didn't help us kill our enemies outside, but you helped me the most. You helped to manage the Black Tortoise world and did your best, allowing me to have no worries. It can be said that you are my backing. Don't say that, it's what we should do. If it wasn't for your appreciation, your trust, we would probably still be a small pawn of the city lord's mansion. We might even have died. Pai Lupi and Theta, Wang hurriedly said. Wang Changyuan smiled and said, This principle is telling us that no matter how small a person is, as long as he meets a talent scout, he can become a good steed. What kind of good steed are we? It's pure luck. The two laughed dryly. Mu Qing looked at Pai Lupi and Theta Wang, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Are these the people on your list? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Think carefully, did you forget anything? Mu Qing asked, unwilling to give up. No. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and shook his head. All right. Mu Qing nodded, with a trace of disappointment in her eyes. Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor looked at each other. The demon ancestor appeared to be very indifferent, but Mu Tianyang's eyes also had a trace of disappointment. There's nothing to see. Go back and continue your seclusion. Mu Tianyang patted Mu Qing's shoulder. Okay. Mu Qing nodded. The two smiled at Qin Feiyang, then turned and left. The demon ancestor saw everything. He looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Then I'll return to the devil's land first. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The demon ancestor nodded to the others, then turned and chased after Mu Qing and Theta Wang. Looking at the backs of the three leaving, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. Qin Feiyang immediately released his perception, secretly spying on the three. In the sky above a mountain, the demon ancestor caught up, looked at Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang and said with a smile, What's wrong? You don't seem to be in a good mood. It's all right. Mu Qing waved her hand. Is it because of what happened before? The demon ancestor asked with a smile. Mu Tianyang glanced at the demon ancestor, shook his head and said, Nothing can escape your eyes. My eyes are fiery, okay? The demon ancestor smiled helplessly. Actually, I don't feel uncomfortable. These ultimate mysteries were obtained by Qin Feiyang and the others. How they arrange it is their business. We have no right to interfere. But I just feel that even people like Pai Lupi and Theta Wang can obtain all the ultimate mysteries. Why can't we? We all have the strongest fighting souls. Whether it's strength or potential, we are stronger than them. Mu Tianyang pursed his lips. You still say you don't feel uncomfortable. I think you just feel unbalanced. Yes, you're right. In terms of strength and potential, Pai Lupi and the others can't compare to us. Even people like Li Feng, Fire Lotus, and Pei Tianhong are miles away from us. But you have to understand one thing. How much have they sacrificed for Qin Feiyang? Let's put it this way. If you were the ruler of the Black Tortoise world, with people like Pai Lupi and Theta Wang helping you wholeheartedly, what would you do? The demon ancestor asked. Me. Mu Tianyang was slightly taken aback. After pondering for a while, he said, I would definitely give them the best. That's right. Contribution isn't something that can only be shown on the battlefield. No matter who it is, no matter what it is, the contribution that is made behind the scenes is the most worthy of respect. The demon ancestor smiled. Then, don't you feel uncomfortable at all? Mu Tianyang asked. No. Thinking back to the past, the harm that I caused to Qin Feiyang and the Great Qin, I have always felt guilty. To be honest, to be able to obtain the 6 ultimate mysteries and merge with the will of heaven, I am already very satisfied. The demon ancestor smiled. Mu Tianyang looked at the demon ancestor in a daze. He shook his head and sighed, You've really changed. You've changed so much that I don't even recognize you anymore. From the moment I was reborn, I had already changed. The demon ancestor said, Yes. Back then, if not for Qin Yuan's help to revive us through the gate of rebirth, we would have already reincarnated. How could we have the chance to live such a wonderful life now? Mu Qing nodded. Mu Tianyang looked at Mu Qing in surprise. Even this brat had changed? Actually, there's nothing that you can't figure out. We all know what's bothering you. Between you and Qin Feiyang, it's because of the fall of the Mu family and Shen Mei's death. But have you ever thought about how much damage you caused to the Great Qin in the past? This is all karma, an eye for an eye. As for the grudge between you and Qin Batian, there's a saying that every grievance has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. You have to go to Qin Batian and not Qin Feiyang, right? The demon ancestor said with a smile. I agree too. If revenge breeds revenge, will there ever be an end to it? I didn't know in the past, but now I'm suddenly enlightened. The past will only become shackles that bind me. I won't hide it from you. Now that I've let go of everything, I feel much more relaxed. Mu Qing smiled. When Mu Tianyang heard this, he fell silent. After a long while, he looked up at the sky, nodded, and sighed, You're right. There's no need to dwell on the past. Living in the present, living happily and freely is the greatest respect for life. The demon ancestor and Mu Qing looked at each other, and a trace of a smile appeared in their eyes. They had finally seen through it. However, Mu Tianyang changed the topic and snorted coldly. This Qin Batian, I treated him as a brother, but he destroyed my Tianyang empire and made me the ruler of a fallen country. I have to bear this shame. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely fight him. Otherwise, I won't be able to vent the hatred in my heart. Ha! The demon ancestor laughed and hugged Mu Tianyang's shoulder. He teased, Who told you to be a tyrant in the past? If you really say that, then wouldn't Lu Jingyang and I have to fight with you? After all, we didn't like what you did back then. Sure, then from now on, you guys can come at me together. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Mu Tianyang raised his head with a proud and unyielding attitude. Chapter 4157 Soul Sealing Valley. Qin Feiyang finally retracted his perception and a smile appeared on his face. How is it? White-eyed Wolf asked secretly. Look at the smile on my face, it's obvious. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. In that case, what we've done over the years has indeed influenced them. If that's the case, then I won't object. These few people finally had some conscience. All right, let's disperse. Hurry up and comprehend the laws and integrate the ultimate profound meaning. Qin Feiyang looked at Pei Tianhong and the rest and waved his hand. Yes, everyone looked at each other and smiled. They left together with excitement. Very soon, there were only Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, Long Chen, Long Qin, Li Zhongxing, and hundreds of thousands of Sea clan members left. Hundreds of thousands of Sea clan members were in despair. But there was nothing they could do. 2 days passed. Long Chen looked haggard. This was a sign that his mental strength had been exhausted. No, I have to rest first. Long Chen waved his hand and sat cross-legged in the void, closing his eyes to rest. This rest lasted for half a month. But even so, even White-Eyed Wolf did not dare to urge Long Chen and waited patiently. Hence, just like that, it took several years to extract the ultimate profound meaning from all the Sea clan members. This exhausted Long Chen greatly. He felt more tired than going through a bloody battle. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Shao Qin, why are you in a daze? Hurry and help your brother to rest." Okay. Long Qin was staring at Li Zhongxing and the other two who were doing the statistics. When he heard this, he immediately reacted and went forward to help Long Chen. White-Eyed Wolf hurriedly shouted, "Wait, there's still Tian Peng and those sea gods. Please spare me. Let me have a good rest first, okay? If a person like you were to do business, the employees would definitely curse you and your ancestors behind your back." Long Chen's face darkened. "Ha!" White-Eyed Wolf laughed dryly. Long Chen rolled his eyes at him and turned to leave with Long Qin's help. The White-Eyed Wolf immediately went over to Qiao Shui and looked at the account book. "Brother Wolf, don't worry. Without a few days of hard work, it's impossible to calculate." Qiao Shui shook her head and smiled. "It's fine. Take your time. I'm just looking." The White-Eyed Wolf waved his hand. Qin Feiyang looked at the hundreds of thousands of sea folk, his eyes flickering, in the distant void. While walking, Long Chen asked, "Qin how do you feel after spending time with Qin Feiyang and the others?" "It's all right." Long Qin was stunned for a moment before he nodded. "Is it just okay?" Long Chen asked with a smile. "What else? To be honest, they're just a bunch of egomaniacs. They're arrogant and lawless, and they don't follow the rules." Long Qin pursed his lips. Even so, he had a good impression of Qin Feiyang and the others, but he didn't want to admit it. "But why do I feel that you're getting along well with them now? And you didn't mind when Qin Feiyang called you by your nickname?" Long Qin chuckled. "He's thick-skinned." Long Qin raised his head. Long Qin shook his head and laughed. This sister of his really knew how to say one thing and mean another. Long Qin asked suspiciously, "Brother, why are you suddenly asking this?" "Actually, during this period of time, I deliberately let you interact with Qin Feiyang and the others alone. The purpose is to let you be honest with each other and open your hearts to each other. Now it seems that the effect is quite good." Long Chen smiled slightly. Long Qin frowned and asked, "Do you really like them that much?" "Not like, but admire. They're all good people. You won't lose out if you make friends with them." Long Chen said with a smile, "I don't care." Long Qin snorted coldly. "You're so stubborn. You're my sister. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Be honest with your heart. But there's one thing I have to warn you seriously. Don't fall in love with the White-Eyed Wolf." Long Chen stopped and turned to stare at Long Qin. Long Qin was stunned. When he came to his senses, he immediately glared at Long Chen and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who wants to fall in love with him? Is he worthy? It's not a matter of whether he's worthy or not. It's this wolf cub. How should I put it? Anyway, I just can't stand it." Long Qin shook his head. Long Qin lowered his head and thought for a while. He looked at Long Qin and said, "He doesn't seem to be as bad as you said. Are you speaking for him?" Long Qin was stunned. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Could it be that his sister had taken a liking to this wolf cub? No. I think that other than being a little punchable, he's actually not bad. Long Chen shook his head. Long Chen didn't think much of this sentence, but Long Chen's eyelids twitched. This wasn't a good frown. Could it really be, like what the demon ancestor said, that these two fought and finally fell in love with each other? The white-eyed wolf was his brother-in-law? Long Chen couldn't help but shiver. Just thinking about it made his scalp tingle. He reminded him, "No matter what, you can't fall in love with the white-eyed wolf." "I won't. Don't worry." Long Chen waved his hand with a look of indifference. Achoo! Soul-Sealing Valley. The white-eyed wolf suddenly sneezed. "What's wrong?" Xiao Shui raised her head and looked at him suspiciously. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his nose and said, "Someone must be praising me behind my back." Ah! Xiao Shui was stunned. Li Zhongxing and the old poison also looked at the white-eyed wolf speechlessly. "Praising you? You're thinking too much." "What's with that look?" The white-eyed wolf stared at the three of them, thinking that they were jealous of him. He proudly walked to Qin Feiyang's side and asked curiously, "What are you looking at?" "You've been staring at them." "I'm thinking, how should we deal with them now?" Qin Feiyang muttered. "Do you even need to ask? Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all." The white-eyed wolf sneered coldly. Hundreds of thousands of marine race members had already been freed from the control. Hearing this, they couldn't help but look at the white-eyed wolf. Their empty eyes revealed a trace of contemplation. Right, now they just wanted to die. What was the point of living when their ultimate intent was stolen? Wait, suddenly, the white-eyed wolf frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Don't we still need to undo those seals? Why don't we ask them who are the elites of the marine race first? Most of the young people who can stay on the sea god's island should be elites." Qin Feiyang murmured. Swish! After a while, Long Qin returned. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Bitch, if we kill these marine race members, will you undo all the seals for us?" "Who are you calling a bitch?" Long Qin glared at him and glanced at the hundreds of thousands of marine race members. "Let's see if there are any elites among them." "Of course there are." "Didn't you see with your own eyes that dozens of young marine race members were stripped of one or two ultimate intents of the strongest law? If they aren't elites, then what is? If you're looking for elites like me, I'm afraid you won't be able to find one in the entire Divine Kingdom." The white-eyed wolf grinned and said smugly, "Shameless." Long Qin rolled her eyes. "Then it's decided. I'll go find Li Feng and the demon ancestor now and kill these elites with my own hands." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Long Qin's face darkened. Did they really not know how to follow the rules? Now that these people's sea of energy had been destroyed and their laws had been stripped, what was the difference between them and trash? It was not challenging at all. "Don't go back on your word. We agreed that it would be fine as long as they killed the elites with their own hands. We didn't say that we couldn't help." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. What he meant was, "Who asked you not to make it clear in the past and let us catch a loophole?" Okay. As long as you're happy." "What rules?" "They're nothing in your eyes." Long Qin waved her hand angrily. Hey, don't curse. You're not civilized." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. More than a dozen ultimate intents of the strongest law. It felt good. Get lost. Long Qin's veins were bulging. He didn't follow the rules, but she wasn't allowed to scold him? How could there be such a logic? Qin Feiyang changed the topic and said with a smile, "In that case, let's suppress these sea clan members in the Soul-Sealing Valley first." If the white-eyed wolf continued to make trouble like this, he would drive Long Qin crazy. "Aren't we going to kill them?" the white-eyed wolf asked. "We won't kill them for the time being. Maybe they will be valuable in the future. After all, Neptune doesn't know that they have lost their ultimate intents." The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled up. These people were the core members of the Sea clan. If there was a chance, Neptune would definitely not give up on rescuing them. And in order to save them, Neptune would naturally have to make a lot of sacrifices. As for the resentment of these Sea clan members towards him, he could completely ignore it. In the past, those who had the ultimate intents were not his match, let alone now. As the saying goes, releasing the tiger back to the mountain. The premise was that the other party had to be a real tiger, but these Sea clan members in front of him, even if he gave them a chance, they would not be able to become real tigers. Therefore, if they could get something valuable from Neptune, such as the origin source in Neptune's hands, it would be more profitable than directly killing these Sea clan members. Chapter 4158. With hundreds of thousands of core members and 20 sea gods, he believed that Neptune would not hesitate to hand over the origin source. If he could really obtain the origin source, he would have the ability to compete with the dragon god. If that's the case, the white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and bared his teeth. Why don't we add some more chips? Add some more chips. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously and asked, "What do you mean?" Long Qin pursed his lips and said, "He means to capture more members of the Sea tribe. The more Sea tribe members there are, the more chips we have. I'll go. You already know your brother so well. Tell me honestly, have you been secretly observing your brother? Actually, there's no need. We can do it openly. After all, this is your brother's charm. Everyone loves me." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Oh my God! Long Qin looked at the sky and was speechless. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Please be merciful and accept this evildoer. Qin Feiyang could not stand it anymore and directly kicked him. Narcissism. Should there be a limit to it? He had never seen such a thick-skinned person. But your suggestion is not bad. The more Sea tribe members there are, the more chips we have in our hands. How about this? I'll leave this matter to the two of you. Qin Feiyang smiled. Us? The white-eyed wolf's expression froze. Long Qin also looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Asking the two of them to go to the Sea tribe alone, was there a mistake? Wasn't he afraid that they would fight halfway? Is there a problem? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. What about you? Do you have anything to do now? The white-eyed wolf asked. Yes, I'm preparing to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of devour and the law of nothingness. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fuck you. You made us go to the Oceanids to mess around while you hid here to comprehend the laws. You sure know how to plan. White-eyed wolf immediately cursed. It is indeed immoral. Long Qin also glared fiercely at Qin Feiyang. Haha, Qin Feiyang laughed. They were arguing so fiercely just a moment ago, and now they were bombarding him together? This pair of enemies was really interesting. What are you laughing at? If you want to go, let's go together. It's just me and this bitch. I'm afraid she'll drag me down. The white-eyed wolf snorted. What are you talking about? Who's dragging who down? If you're not convinced, why don't we compete now? Long Qin glared at the white-eyed wolf angrily. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. The white-eyed wolf raised his head in disdain. If you don't have the guts, just say it. What a hypocrite. Long Qin didn't want to be outdone and said contemptuously. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Why were they arguing again? Couldn't they stop for a moment? He turned to look at Xiao Shui and said with a smile, "We'll go out first." I'll leave this place to you. Xiao Shui was slightly taken aback and teased. With so many ultimate mysteries, aren't you afraid that I'll secretly steal dozens or hundreds of them from Xidagarba? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. With a wave of his hand, he disappeared with the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin without a trace. Li Zhongxing immediately looked at Xiao Shui and said, "Shui, or you can't do something like stuffing your own pockets. Qin Feiyang has been very good to us and promised to give us all the ultimate mysteries. If you do this, you'll be repaying kindness with evil. Qiao Shui looked at Li Zhongxing in shock. Li Zhongxing was stunned. He turned to look at the old poison and asked suspiciously, "Did I say something wrong?" "With your IQ, you want to chase Qiao Shui?" The old poison shook his head. Outside, although a few years had passed in the Black Tortoise world, only a short while had passed in the outside world. However, in just a short while, the news of the Sea Lion Island had spread throughout the 4 great continents. "What? That's crazy!" The Sea God's Island is the sacred land of the sea race. Most of the sea race's experts are here. How dare they attack the Sea God's Island so brazenly? What's Neptune doing? Why isn't he stopping them? Rumor has it that Neptune went to the Central Dynasty. The Central Dynasty? What's he doing there? I don't know. But now the 20 sea gods of the sea race have been annihilated and more than half of their core members have been killed. It's hard to imagine what kind of reaction Neptune will have when he returns. Is there even a need to think about it? I'm afraid he'll even want to dig up Qin Feiyang's ancestral grave. Those bastards really know how to cause trouble. Compared to the Sea God's Island, the Supreme Mountain, the Mythical Island, and the Dragon God Mountain are just child's play. The living beings of the various continents were discussing. At this moment, the sea race on the other islands had also learned of this matter. Everyone was in a state of panic. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang would appear in front of them in the next moment. In the east of the sea, there was a huge island standing on the sea. This island was the second largest island after the Sea God's Island. The island was filled with mountains and lush greenery. Whoosh! At this moment, a space-time tunnel suddenly appeared in the sky above the island. The island was heavily guarded. The slightest movement would attract the attention of the sea race. When the space-time tunnel appeared, the experts of the sea race on the island immediately looked up. Their faces were filled with vigilance and shock. In short, the sea race was like a bird that was startled by the twang of a bow. Who could it be? It doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's not Qin Feiyang or his group. The experts of the sea race were nervous. Finally, 3 figures walked out of the space-time tunnel. When the oceanic species expert saw the 3 of them, his face turned ghastly pale. 2 men and 1 woman came out. Of the 2 men, one was dressed in white and had a calm expression, revealing confidence and calmness. The other was dressed in a long golden robe and looked unruly. Both of them looked to be in their 20s, and their auras were incomparable. As they stood in the sky, they were as dazzling as the stars in the sky. The woman next to them also looked to be in her 20s. She wore a silver-white long dress and gave off a cold feeling that kept people thousands of miles away. If it wasn't Qin Feiyang, who is the golden-winged wolf king from Longqin, Qin Feiyang is attacking. The group of experts of the sea race came back to their senses and immediately roared. At this moment, the entire island was in a mess. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were stunned. They were discovered so quickly, so they lowered their heads and looked at the experts of the sea race. There were about 50 to 60 people. There were men and women, old and young. These must be the experts of the sea race who were responsible for protecting this island. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a red figure swept out from the mountains below and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the others like lightning. It was a middle-aged man in a red robe. He looked like a human and was only about 7 meters tall, but there were several pairs of red wings on his back. "I am Hai Yunchuan, the owner of this island. Greetings, my lords." The middle-aged man bowed to salute. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were stunned. How could he be so humble? And he even called himself a villain? They couldn't get used to it for a while. In fact, Hai Yunchuan didn't want to be like this. But there was no other way. Neptune was not here. The sea gods were also captured. Who could help them now in the East Continent? In order to protect themselves, they could only bow and scrape, hoping that the other party would let go of the sea race here. May I ask why the three of you have come to our small island? Hai Yunchuan lowered his head humbly and asked, Island? The white-eyed wolf glanced at the island and said, This is an island? Of course. In your eyes, this is no different from a small place. Hai Yunchuan smiled flatteringly. In fact, Hai Yunchuan's strength was not weak. As the owner of the second largest island, he also controlled the will of heaven. But there was no other way. The other party was Qin Feiyang, the golden-winged wolf king, and Long Qin. It was not something he could deal with. You're good at talking. It makes us a little embarrassed to destroy this island. The white-eyed wolf laughed. Hai Yunchuan's expression stiffened. He hastily knelt in the air. Enduring the humiliation in his heart, he shouted, Sirs, please be lenient. If you really want to attack, then kill me. I am willing to use my life in exchange for the fate of all the members of the sea race here. So righteous. The white-eyed wolf was surprised. It's my duty to protect my people. I have no other request. I just hope that the three lords can leave me a complete corpse. After Hai Yunchuan finished speaking, he closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting for death. But in fact, he was nervous to the extreme. Who wanted to die? It was nothing more than a trick to win the sympathy of Qin Feiyang and the other two. The white-eyed wolf looked at Hai Yunchuan, and a trace of killing intent suddenly appeared in his eyes. He nodded and said, Okay, I'll help you. He slapped Hai Yunchuan's head. Hai Yunchuan's body shook, and he instinctively stood up to fight back. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Didn't you just say that you're willing to exchange your life for the fate of all the sea race here? It seems that you're just saying it. Feeling the white-eyed wolf's killing intent, Hai Yunchuan looked down at his people. Their faces were full of despair, and their hearts were in extreme pain. He then looked at the white-eyed wolf and slowly lowered his arm, saying, I hope you can keep your words. After that, he didn't show any signs of fighting back. The white-eyed wolf sneered and slapped him mercilessly. Accompanied by a scream, Hai Yunchuan's head was smashed on the spot. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and his divine soul trembled. Below, looking at this scene, all the sea race on the island were furious. Qin Feiyang looked at Hai Yunchuan's divine soul, and then looked at the sea race on the island below. He said coldly, Do it! Destroy this place! What? Hai Yunchuan's divine soul was shocked and said angrily, You can't do this? You promised me. When did we promise you? It seems that you've always been the one saying it. The white-eyed wolf smiled mockingly. Hai Yunchuan trembled slightly. The other party didn't seem to have explicitly said that he would let them go. But at this moment, a violent shout sounded. Don't go too far. As the voice fell, a white-haired old man descended from the sky. Ninth Master Ji? Qin Feiyang and the other two were slightly stunned. Ninth Master, why is he here? Ninth Master Ji, save us! Seeing Ninth Master Ji descending, Hai Yunchuan hurriedly called for help as if he had seen a life-saving straw. The other sea race members were the same. In the past, everyone in the sea race didn't like the people of the purple-gold divine dragon clan, but now, when they saw Ninth Master Ji appear, it was as if they had seen a family member. Chapter 4159. Don't panic. Ji Jiao comforted the group of Oceanids and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. Are you done? Isn't destroying the sea gods island enough? Do you want to destroy the entire Oceanids? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. What kind of drama was this? Don't misunderstand. He's looking down on us. He wants us to protect the Oceanids. This way, not only will the Sea King no longer suspect us, he will also be grateful to our purple gold divine dragon clan. Suddenly, Ji Jiu's voice sounded in their minds. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and smiled. So the other great-grandpas and great-grandmas are also in this sea? Yes. They're on another island. Ji Jiu thought. That's right. The monarch is quite calculative. The ingrate snickered in his heart. Old man, Master Ji Jiu was taken aback and scolded in his heart. Impudent! Also, how can this be called scheming? As long as we gain Neptune's trust, Neptune and the Central Dynasty won't hide any plans or schemes from us in the future. At that time, won't it be much easier for you to do things? Makes sense. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, but now that you're here, should we continue? Or retreat immediately? Of course we should continue. Otherwise, this show will be too fake. Jiju said. So, we still have to fight with you? White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. Of course, and we can't show mercy. Jiju thought. The three of them looked at each other. In that case, boom. The aura of the three burst out, and they immediately attacked Jiju together. The corner of Jiju's mouth twitched. I told you not to show mercy, and you really didn't show mercy? These heartless little bastards. Qin Feiyang and the other two were wronged. Didn't you say not to show mercy? I've been following your orders all this time. Quickly leave the island. Master Jiju shouted at the members of the Sea tribe on the island below. With a thought, 3,000 incarnations appeared out of nowhere and charged toward the three people like a pack of tigers and wolves. You overestimate yourself. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. 3,000 clones also appeared. A chaotic battle ensued. Hai Yunchuan's god soul immediately left the battlefield and fled with his clansmen on the island. From time to time he would turn his head to look at Jiju, his eyes filled with worry. Everyone knew the strength of Qin Feiyang and the other two. Was this old man a match for them? I think the rumors are true. The dragon god has really colluded with Qin Feiyang and the others. I think so too. Otherwise, why hasn't he sent anyone to protect us in secret? To think that he even said that the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon race were colluding with Qin Feiyang, causing us to misunderstand the three races. What a hateful beast. All the members of the Sea tribes were enraged. Battle. Soon the battle reached its climax. Qin Feiyang and the other two waved their hands, and various ultimate mysteries roared out, including the ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death. At this moment, Master Jiju became battered and exhausted, because now Qin Feiyang's will of the heavenly Tao had become stronger. It was on a completely different level from the last time he fought with Master Jiju in the village. You want to take the opportunity to kill me and inherit my tea garden. Master Jiju said angrily. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and secretly smiled. Thank you for reminding me, great-grandfather. The corner of Master Jiju's mouth twitched fiercely. Boom! Facing the storm-like attacks of the three, Master Jiju retreated step by step. After a while, his whole body was dripping with blood. Even Master Jiju is no match for them. What kind of monster is this Qin Feiyang? In the distance, a group of Sea tribe members watched in horror. They were also glad that Master Jiju had stepped forward. Otherwise, who could stop these three? Rumble! The fluctuations of the battle shocked all directions. Swish! At this time, space-time passages appeared one after another. 14 old men arrived one after another. It was Boss G and the other old men. Great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers. You guys are too exaggerated. You don't have to come together. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Even if he had mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, even if he had two wills of the heavenly Tao, He didn't dare to compete with these 15 old men. These 15 old men each had 3,000 incarnations. How terrifying would it be if they attacked together? Without thinking, Qin Feiyong immediately opened the space-time passage and left with the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin. Don't run if you have the ability. Master Jijio was indignant. He originally planned to wait for Boss G and the others to come and teach these 3 little guys a lesson, but who knew that they would run away faster than rabbits. If you don't run, are you waiting to be beaten by us? But you're really in a sorry state. Boss G and the others looked at Master Jijio and laughed secretly. Master Jijio's face darkened as he stared at the group of people angrily. You guys are here too? Hai Yunchuan flew over and looked at Boss G and the others in disbelief. Aren't you asking the obvious? After the king returned from the Sea God's Island, he immediately found us and asked us to come here to secretly protect the important islands of the Sea Tribe. Boss G said lightly, Thank you, King. Thank you all. Hai Yunchuan was grateful. Without these old men, he didn't dare to imagine how big of a crisis the Sea Tribe would face. Now that the Sea Lion Island was almost destroyed, there couldn't be any accidents on the other islands. We don't dare to count on your gratitude. We just hope that you won't suspect us of colluding with Qin Feiyong in the future. Ji Laosher snorted coldly. That won't happen, that won't happen. In the past, we were all instigated by the dragon god. Ji Yunchuan waved his hand. Don't talk about the dragon god. Maybe he's really innocent. Old Ji said. He's innocent? If he's really innocent, why didn't he appear now? When Lord Neptune comes back, I will immediately report this matter to him and seek justice from the dragon god. Hai Yunchuan's eyes were full of resentment. The group of old men looked at each other with a hint of smile in their eyes. They knew it. Now, the more they exonerated the dragon god, the more the Sea Tribe would believe that the dragon god colluded with Qin Feiyong. Buzz! Suddenly, in the distance, a voice transmission godstone rang. This person took it out. The figure of an old man of the Sea Tribe immediately appeared. The old man of the Sea Tribe shouted anxiously, Quickly tell your island master to bring reinforcements immediately. What's wrong? Hearing this, the Sea Tribe present were all surprised. Hai Yunchuan, Master Jijio, and the others quickly flew over. Why are these old men here? When the old man of the Sea Tribe saw Master Jijio and the others, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then he looked at Hai Yunchuan and shouted, Qin Feiyong, golden-winged wolf king, Long Qin has invaded our island. Quickly come and help. What? They went to your island so quickly? Hai Yunchuan's expression changed. Don't talk nonsense. Quickly come over. The old man of the Sea Tribe roared anxiously. But before he finished speaking, a young man in golden clothes appeared behind the old man of the Sea Tribe. The old man of the Sea Tribe stiffened and slowly turned his head to look. Who else could it be but the white-eyed wolf? The white-eyed wolf stood behind the old man of the Sea Tribe and looked at Master Jijio and the others. He smiled cruelly and said, Next, let's play a guerrilla war. Let's see if you can save the entire Sea Tribe. Bastard! Master Jijio shouted angrily. The white-eyed wolf grinned and slapped down. The old man of the Sea Tribe screamed, and his body was shattered on the spot. The image of the transmission also disappeared. Old Senior, what should we do? Hai Yunchuan looked at the group of old men in despair. Don't panic. Let's immediately send a message to the king and let him inform the divine king and the human sovereign to immediately lead the experts of the 3 races to support us. Master Jijio comforted. Thank you, Master Jiu. Hai Yunchuan thanked him again and again. The king, the divine king, and the human sovereign were also quite cooperative. When they heard the news, they immediately mobilized a large force and came to support the Sea Tribe. Dragon God Mountain. The Golden Tiger hurriedly entered the Dragon God Mountain and looked at the Dragon God sitting in the pavilion. he said excitedly. My lord, there's news about Qin Feiyang and the others. Where are they? The dragon god suddenly stood up, killing intent surging in his eyes. The sea tribe, the golden tiger, said. What? They appeared in the sea, tribe again. The dragon god frowned. Yes, looking at their posture, they seemed to be planning to take advantage of Neptune's absence to completely overthrow the sea tribe. The golden tiger nodded. Their ambition is not small. The dragon god clenched his fists. Then should we go now or not? The golden tiger asked. What do you think? The dragon god asked back. The sea tribe has already misunderstood us. If we go, won't we be asking for trouble? The golden tiger frowned. He was very unhappy with the sea tribe's attitude. Each and every one of them had a pig's brain. They actually believed Qin Feiyang's nonsense. What you said makes sense. However, if we don't go now, it's equivalent to admitting that we are colluding with Qin Feiyang. The dragon god sighed. That's true. The golden tiger nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, and I also received news that the group of old men from the purple gold divine dragon clan are now helping the sea tribe. Then we have to go even more. Otherwise, when the time comes, the human clan, the god clan, and the purple gold divine dragon clan will also believe that we are colluding with Qin Feiyang. I'll go first. Hurry up and gather the beast venerables below. All of them will go to the sea tribe to support them. The dragon god instructed and immediately opened a space-time passage to the sea. This time the sea tribe was lively, because except for the central dynasty, the 5 major clans of the 4 continents were gathered in this sea area. The powerhouses of the 5 major clans gathered in one place. This was most likely the first time in the history of the Divine Kingdom, not to mention anything else. Just this point alone was enough for Qin Feiyang and the others to be recorded in the history of the Divine Kingdom. However, although the 5 major clans were gathered in the sea area, it was not that easy to catch Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Moreover, seeing the dragon god, the golden tiger, and a group of beast venerables descend, the people of the sea tribe did not welcome them at all. If not for the king and the others stopping them, the sea tribe would have driven them away directly. This made the dragon god even angrier. In his heart, his resentment towards Qin Feiyang and the others was even stronger, because all of this was caused by Qin Feiyang and the others. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.